Boom, boom. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. So we'll go look over there. And
Then I'm going to disappear.
yep, there it is. Upcoming. Oh my heavens, we're live now, and you disappeared just in time. Well, good afternoon. Good evening to some. Robert, I see you in Europe today. Happy to see you. I see James is here, but incognito. How are things with you, Robert?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Very good. Just preparing for a short vacation, so I thought I'd pop in for a little while because next week I won't be able to join, even though I've seen Jeff's email. So,
Yep.
Yeah, big change.
You're
Big change.
just getting back from holiday, or you're going to holiday?
I'm going,
Good.
and I won't be there on the 11th when Jeff comes on. So.
And where do you go for holiday? Is that a top secret?
No, it's not actually. I'm taking my youngest daughter down in south to the mountains in south of Poland, and we're going hiking for a week.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Father-daughter bonding time.
That's good. That's good. I see Gerald is here. Gerald, good to see you back. And so what we're going to do, David Paskin, who's going to join us at 3:30 Eastern, about a half hour from now, is going to join us. But until then, it's up to us to keep the ball rolling and talk about any questions or tests that you want to do. And Robert, you always got something tantalizing for the group.
Yeah, well, I spent about an hour on a chat with Zoom support today because I had a very, very specific question. Now, I don't know if it's going to affect a lot of us, but maybe it'll be worth just talking through because it's an interesting one, especially for producers. To set the scene, hi Gerald. To set the scene, we're running a webinar, and the webinar is on a certain capacity license. And the question arises, what happens when the nth plus one attendee joins the meeting, where n is the license limit? And so we were trying to figure out the easy answer to that is you set up a YouTube stream in Zoom, stream it like we're doing here, and that n plus one attendee gets the notification that the meeting's full, the license is full, so you can go and watch the rest on YouTube. But my question was, what happens if we don't start the stream in Zoom? In other words, we're using ZoomISO to capture individual individuals, producing the event on a different platform and then streaming from that platform. If we give the URL that we put into the stream for that platform into Zoom, will the nth plus one attendee see the notification that this is the URL, go there and you'll see it if I'm not streaming from Zoom? Yeah? And it took a long time to get that understanding of the question across. And finally, just like I've laid it down here, I had to do it step by step. And I finally got the answer, yes, it's not dependent on whether the stream is started in Zoom or not.
That's interesting.
It's
Did they not know the answer right away and you had to beat it out of them or encourage them? What took so long to get to that conclusion?
Well, I think the first thing is that I got a frontline help desk person who didn't understand the question. And then I was escalated onto someone who understands the process better. And it took me a long time for him to understand the context of that question. And when he finally understood it, he said, yes. Yes to both cases. Whether you start the stream or not in the client during the webinar makes no difference. That notification will always go out to the n plus one attendee and all of the others, of course. So that's really good news. And Gerald and I had been discussing it earlier on today. And so we really wanted to understand how we play this, because what we're actually going to do is now we produce the event we're running with Gerald, that is in the AI Summit, and we stream it from a separate platform, and we push it into Vimeo. And from Vimeo, we restream it to LinkedIn Live and to YouTube at the same time, or to a multiple other number of platforms, but we don't need to do that. And so we wanted the nth plus one attendee to get the notification that he can go to YouTube and watch it, or to go to LinkedIn and get it and watch it automatically from Zoom. So it's possible, that's the way it works, and we should be good to go.
Oh, I'm under the impression that the N is that there is a little flexibility at their end about the N. But my guess is they don't want to tell you what it is.
From my experience, it's about 3%, because on 100 license, you get 3 extra users. On a 500, you'll get about 15. And so it probably goes up. It's some sort of tolerance. But what the guy did say to me is interesting, is that the N is like a moving number, because if someone is trying to come in and someone's going out, you may still see that the person going out is there and the person who wants to come in gets in. So he's like over that number. So it's I wouldn't say it's a moving target, but it has a certain amount of tolerance because of the delay times in all of the messaging that's going backwards and forwards between the users and the Zoom platforms in the different data centers across the world, of course. So,
Gerald, how many did you have on the last event, the one I attended? You're muted.
Gerald,
We had 500, which is the maximum of my license. However, we had, going back and looking at who registered for the event that day of, there were about 900 people that registered. So it shows to me that there are about 400 people that probably couldn't get in. We have a total of 6,000 or 7,000 people actually registered for the event series on my Zoom Enterprise license and so forth. And so the I ultimately think we can ultimately have a few thousand people on Zoom webinar. Thing is, Zoom webinar enterprise license editions and so forth are still quite pricey.
Right.
So if I've got 5,000 or 10,000 people on Zoom webinar, my bill is $5,000 to $10,000 for Zoom webinar.
And that's like the fisherman has to pay for the bait before they go out fishing. You have to lay down the bucks to make that many seats available and not know whether it get filled. It's an amazing solution to be able to have that N plus whatever person automatically get a notice that you're not going to miss anything if you get to this link to YouTube. Are you going to have moderators watching the Q&A so that at least they feel a little engaged?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Last month we didn't, and so forth. We're not equipped with any moderators to do that. So I think we'll keep it closed from comments for now, simply because we don't have the staffing.
Hey, Mike, good to see you.
sorry,
There we go. Let me try that again. Hello there, gang.
Good to see you.
hey, Mike. But just as a follow-up, Jeff has pasted the how to configure the custom streaming service into the chat. But my question was whether that works, whether that notification comes through if you don't start the stream within Zoom. That was the issue we were trying to address. And now we know that it's independent of whether you start the stream or not. So that's the news.
And so in summary, what does that mean? What button do we not need to click, or do we need to click, and when during the summit?
Ray can tell you that because he started the live stream here.
You want to click on it as soon as you can.
Uh-huh.
I see Frank has joined us with his equipment. Perhaps Frank is going to join us as well. James, you've got your camera on. Greetings.
Hello. So sorry for the blurred background. I know some people tend to hate blurred backgrounds. And I'm still not sure I believe your answer from Zoom. Because so the question is, if you have all of those services checked off, right, in your settings, and you have this notice, are you saying you could just have a notice that says, instead of go to YouTube to watch this, you could have a notice that said, there'll be a recording available over here, or too bad you can't get in, or I mean, because it's like, if you're not starting the stream, they might be getting a notice, but you don't have a stream going to any service. And then there's also the custom service, and that's normally what we use to go to YouTube, because the YouTube is a live now kind of thing. Whereas normally, like if you want to set up a stream very specifically, that you are actually going to start in Zoom specifically, you use the custom URL or the custom RMTP to send to whatever service. And in the notice there, it says if you use custom, the note part doesn't work. What does it say? It says,
I think, James, if I can just answer that question, that's a slightly different workflow than the one we're trying to set up.
and the other question to that is, you know, possibly doing it in a way, you know, where some people have done things where they have multiple meetings. And so a whole meeting joins another meeting. And because the latency isn't very bad, they can coexist because they hear the audio back and forth. You know, like I think one of those, I don't know if I should say names, so uses that kind of methodology where they're using multiple meetings and combining them all into one meeting. So then you wouldn't necessarily have to have a webinar 1000 or webinar 3000 license. You could just connect, you know, like you would connect one meeting into your other meeting. And all those 200 people, say, in that other meeting are just getting the sound from the other meeting, but they don't have to show up on the screens, if that makes sense, right? So,
Yeah.
sorry, I might have confused things more, you know, for you, but
I think there's the two things you're saying here, James. One is that you can set up multiple meetings and then pass on the video and the audio from a different meeting into those meetings so that you can increase the number of attendees. So that's something we don't want to do. The other thing is the issue of the notification. Now, what the information or the discussion I had with the Zoom reps today was more to do with setting up in the webinar configuration a YouTube URL apart from all of the stream parameters. Okay? And my question was, if I set up that in the same way as now, if you go to the top of the screen and you click on the little button next to YouTube Live, you will see live on YouTube. Yeah? And then you can click there and go across to YouTube. My question is, if we weren't live, do you still get the option of, not in the meeting itself, but in the notification that you get when you try to log in as the N+1 attendee, the meeting capacity is full. So you get a message, no, you can't come in because the license is fully utilized, all the seats occupied. You get a notification there. And in that notification, you get the URL. And my question was, will that URL be shown if I don't press the start stream in the Zoom webinar? Because what we're doing is we're using ZoomISO to pull out all of the attendees, producing the event on a different platform, and then streaming from that platform onto the
okay.
YouTube channel. And we have exactly the same URL that we're plugging in and configuring in Zoom. So that should work theoretically. But my question was, if I don't go live in the Zoom webinar for streaming, will that URL still be published in the notification? And the answer is yes.
Okay, so I didn't understand that you were actually, yes, starting a YouTube. And now that makes sense, because otherwise I'm saying, like, if you don't start it, it's not there.
Correct.
It doesn't matter where you start it. It's just that you gotta start it someplace. But I get your issue now.
Yeah, because I don't want to use the Zoom format for streaming because it's not good. So we're producing somewhere else and then streaming onto YouTube from that production site.
Right. We've done that multiple times too, where we don't send it through Zoom so that Zoom shows up on the YouTube. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's happening right now for the Zoom test kitchen right now. If you're watching us on Zoom or on YouTube right now, you'll see the Zoom watermark that James and Robert are talking about.
But you can get rid of that watermark. That's not the issue. You can put in your own logo and brand it with your own logo. That's not a challenge of any sort at all. The challenge for me was, will the notification come up for the attendees if I haven't started the stream in the webinar? Because I didn't want to start the stream in the webinar. I also thought about just starting the stream in the webinar and then going to a private YouTube channel. But then the trouble with that is that if someone does click on it, goes and sees a different format, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. So we were trying to avoid that.
Anisha has joined us. Greetings.
And she's shaking her head as if
Yes,
How's everybody today?
it's good. Glad to have you.
Good to see you, Ray. Good. Good.
So we're looking for other conversation to continue. Who brought something else that they want to talk about to today's kitchen? We've got the time. Go ahead, James. Look at us this time. We're over here.
So I'm wondering, they do have this translation captions feature, which isn't available, let's say, on all accounts, right? And I'm wondering if anyone's ever tried any other kind of solutions to that. Like, so someone's watching this from China and they want to see, they don't understand the English or they don't understand it well. And so they want to see Chinese. Wouldn't they just use their phone and turn on captioning on their phone, which they use maybe other times? Or has anyone ever thought of other solutions on that?
Yeah, James, we do this a lot because that's our core business is interpretation and translation. And the two things that we do, Zoom uses Otter to do the transcript. So the beauty about Otter is not only is it AI, but it understands accents, and it's really good, like really good. I mean, you get a guy with a thick whatever accent, not to name any, it will get it right. And if it gets the context wrong, it'll come back and get it right again. So it's moving backwards and forward. So that's really good. However, the translations are based on the transcripts, and the transcripts themselves are really good if you're speaking what I would call in language that is not a vertical market language. So if we get into an area, for example, pharmacy, and they're working on R&D, Otter doesn't know anything about it because they're new words, they're new phrases, doesn't have a clue what you're talking about in Zoom. So what we do at this stage to ask if we use any other solutions, we also have an Otter account. And what we do is the Otter account itself allows you to preload a glossary. So you take all of the words that you know that are going to come up in your prep work with the client, you pull out and you create a glossary, feed this into Otter, and then it'll get things right. It does a lot of things right. It gets all names correct. It gets proper nouns, names are proper nouns, so it gets all of them right. And it gets all of these new words that it hasn't heard of right as well. Yeah? And once it's got that into that, then we'll feed it through, because in the captions, you can connect your Zoom account to your Otter account and use the Otter account to provide the captions in Zoom live. Now, so that's the easy part. The challenge, of course, is to get the translation working, because the translated captions in Zoom are based on what Zoom captures. In other words, it listens to the speaker, takes what the speaker's saying, transcribes it, and then translates that and shows you the captions. It doesn't use what you're feeding in from Otter. So what you effectively have to do is to translate it outside of Zoom and then feed it back into Otter. Now, we have a couple of machine language tools that we can use for this, but what we have to do is put it through a delay system where someone can edit it, because those translation tools are not as good as transcription tools. So it's a lengthy process.
So you're saying the caption translations, this, I think, is relatively new for Zoom, but maybe not. It's not taking those and changing what it sees for words to the other words. It has to use a different, it just is using the audio in a different service to translate.
No,
I mean, because there's language interpretations, right? So if we have language interpretations, we could have a person viewing this who is actually then feeding back, you know, like, I think most of the time that's not by words. They get some delay, they hear what they're hearing, and then they speak it, and then people who choose to listen to the French translation of this will get like 20% of the audio that is actually in the meeting, and they get 80% of the French, just like when you hear like United Nations speeches, right? That you hear a little bit maybe of what, you know, how that person sounds. And then the louder audio you're hearing is that translator, right? And that's interpretation, not translation, because the person is translating in their mind.
The interpretation system in Zoom works that it actually ducks the original speaker. So if you take not to use a decibel scale, if you take say 100% scale, the speaker will be at around 20% audio level, and the interpreter at 80%, just as a rough ballpark figure. But definitely what you're saying is correct, is that the interpreter listening understands and has his own glossary and translates that in his head and then speaks out the second language. Yeah? And he's doing that simultaneously. And it's a very, very difficult skill to have. And so the interpreters actually change over every 15 minutes just to keep up and have a break. The cognitive load is immense, and it's extremely tiring. And the thing about interpretation is that interpretation doesn't give you 100% true interpretation of what is being said, because it's on the fly. Yeah? So anything that you want to have a real 100% message coming across, what we advise our clients to do is pre-record we will make a transcript, have the transcript accepted, and then we'll put a speaker to just speak over that. And that is the best quality translation you can get.
Thank you, Robert. James? Who's got something else to throw up to the group? Have something to do with Zoom activity you've done this week or planning to do in the next couple of weeks?
I'm getting ready to do a family reunion in about 2 hours, so I'm just ready.
How big is it?
100 people if everything goes okay.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Far and wide are your attendees?
Just across the United States, nowhere outside. Yeah.
And are these your family?
Mhm.
I'm just
Very-
curious how you got the gig.
How did I get the gig? It's called Pandemic Survival. We have this is our 76th consecutive family reunion. We meet every year, so we had to keep going during the pandemic. So this is the way we did it. So this year and last year was hybrid. So there'll be someone at the hotel, the little concierge room where everybody's eating, that's going to have a laptop set up and joining those folks.
That's great. James?
Hey, James.
So did you notice then, you said you did it last year as a hybrid, and I would think hybrid's the hardest way of really kind of integrating everyone. Cause like if everyone's on Zoom, they have their own window and everyone's kind of seeing it. And if you have people that are in person and, your family reunion, you're hugging and you're,
Yeah.
I'm not paying attention to the TV, they might walk over to the TV, right? How did you manage that last year? And
well, we had a few folks that were there in person who were also joined in from their phones. So, and then I just would mute people if they weren't the person who needed to be closest to the mic, and kind of managed it from there. And yeah, it did feel separated, but at least the people that were off site were at least able to participate in knowing what the current meeting information, family news and things that we were voting on and stuff like that. So that was the best way for us to be able to keep the continuity in place.
I don't go to family reunions any longer because they last more than hours and hours and don't ever seem to end. How do you end this politically?
Understandable.
Somebody's got to take charge at some point and pull the plug.
Right. Like, okay, it's over.
Yep, the clock is ticking.
we only had the hall till 3:30. We got to go.
We're all in our own homes.
Yeah.
And actually it was kind of fun because afterwards, the folks that wanted to hang on Zoom, we played music, we chatted. People actually kind of cut up and had a little bit more fun outside of the in-person event. So that was kind of fun.
You could market that to other families who could use that. I bet that'd be pretty popular.
I'm sure there are plenty of folks that are doing things like that around. I know I've been to many a Zoom wedding and many a Zoom funeral now too. Also, I'm sure people are finding ways to purpose all of this. So,
And you said, did you use some breakout rooms for one-to-ones?
I set up 2 breakout rooms, but everybody wound up staying in the main room for the conversation. Nobody went off to the side.
Okay.
They're like, I got your cell phone number, cousin. I'll call you.
Oh, all right.
One of the other things that worked for me recently, after I'd watched Andy Tao talking about Zoom cuts with Adam Tao, we set up that button that allows you to define like an intro, so you can get people. You start off and you spotlight someone for a minute, and then it moves on to the next person, then to the next person, and it goes through the whole list by the press of a button. And then you just tell everyone, okay, each of you are going to have 60 seconds just to say hello, give an update, what you're doing, and then we're moving on. And I can't stop it. So it's just going to happen. You guys have got to let it go. Yeah. And it was magic. It was hilarious.
So did you get people that were like, oh no, I don't want to be on camera, and like drop off? Or
Yeah. Some said, no, I'm just passing. I'll pass this. Yeah. And that's an issue because there is no button to say, I pass, move on. You have to wait till the 60 seconds are over and then move on. Well, I haven't figured out one yet.
Was this some kind of a script or something? How was this set up?
Using Zoom cuts. If you use a Mac, you got shortcuts, and Zoom has come up with Zoom cuts that allow you to predefine certain functions as shortcuts on Mac that apply to a Zoom meeting.
So I'm on an iPad currently just because of vacation. I'm on a PC regular, but I'm wondering if I could use those same Zoom cuts in my Stream Deck, because I've been using Stream Deck with Zoom quite a bit.
You can, but you'd have to run it from the iPad. In other words, because shortcuts are available on the iPad.
Got it.
Because it's a Mac operating system tool. So you'd start up shortcuts on the iPad, and then you'd have to, I don't know how to do this, tell you the truth. Your Stream Deck would have to be working with the iPad. I don't even know if that's possible.
I think it is, only because Elgato just released Stream Deck iOS applications that mimic your Stream Deck.
Okay.
So that might be a possibility. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, and I use a Stream Deck as well, and it runs like a dream. It's quite amazing. Shortcuts from Mac and then Zoom cuts. You need to get those two things working with each other.
Okay.
But it's really simple. It's really simple. And you can either watch replay on YouTube here on Zoom Test Kitchen, where Andy was on, or in Office Hours. You can go and check Office Hours Global. They also had a session. I've watched that about 5 times. There's so much. It's such a good instructional video that I just watch it over and over again. It's pretty amazing what you can do with Zoom cuts. And
Okay.
David Paskin, I know, has just come in, and he's a big fan. So
He's trying to get set up, I think. I added it to my notes. Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, I think David was actually showing those last week, Robert, correct?
Yeah.
he did.
James, you use Zoom cuts. Do you have you mastered it?
No, and there's only a few times I've, if I've been given co-host of another particular meeting, there's sometimes where I've tested something at pre 5 a.m. Just as a I don't want to break anything, so I'll do it right now but otherwise, those fancy ones, I mean, I've used Zoom cuts for, kind of the simple, I can join a meeting and stuff, but not a lot, I haven't done any of the if then that logic that Adam had. And since they're already pre-made, you can use those, but I have not.
All right.
I'm just going to say hi, David.
Hi, David.
Nice to see you.
Welcome, David. We've kept it alive this long.
Woohoo!
Some pretty interesting conversations. How's David today?
David is good. This was the last Friday that David wasn't able to be here at 3, so I apologize. And something until 3:30. I'm doing great. How's everyone doing over there?
Don't all talk at once.
Perfect. Everyone's perfect.
Very good, David. Thank you, David. Did you manage to leave your last meeting and jump into the Zoom Test Kitchen using one shortcut?
No. But but I use two shortcuts. I have a leave meeting, and then I have a join Zoom test kitchen. So literally 2 buttons, which is like fantastic. Just being able to join with a Stream Deck button is kind of life changing. If you know what meetings you're joining, it really, it's just lovely. It really is.
Are you talking about programming the like the passcode and ID in your Stream Deck?
So yes, but it you don't have to program. It just kind of works. It just happens using Zoom cuts. You just put that information in, and it does it for you.
Okay. Yeah, I just started actually programming all the meetings I go to in my Stream Deck. Instead of trying to remember everything.
Yep.
Are we talking about the same thing, Pete? Are you referring to shortcuts or just Stream Deck?
Well, just my Stream Deck. What is shortcuts? Is that a software package?
Yeah, shortcuts is David will tell you he's a big guru on this.
Peter,
No. So Zoom Cuts is another Zoom client that uses Mac shortcuts to control stuff. So basically, whether you're doing it from your dock or from the menu bar or from the Shortcuts app or from your Stream Deck, you can have a button that will automatically launch a meeting, and you just put in the code and the passcode and all that stuff in. You can have buttons that will spotlight, pin, all those different things. So I'm using Zoom Cuts exclusively now. I don't even use the native Zoom client anymore. And I'm able to. So when I when I go into a meeting, there are a series of buttons that I press. Right, there's join the meeting. Then I have another button that will make both Zoom monitors full screen.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have a button that will open my Zoom participants panel, and then I have a button that will pin the participant that I want. And then when I leave the meeting, I have a button that will end the meeting or just leave the meeting, and then buttons to join. So it just makes everything easier.
Okay, and haven't heard of it yet, but I haven't been. I've been busy doing live events, so I haven't been keeping up with what Zoom is doing and things like that. But
Peter,
sounds cool.
Are you on PC or Mac, Pete?
PC all the way.
So this is Mac only.
Okay, well, I guess I'm out, but I'm okay. I got.
Wait, where's my? Hold on. There it is. Sorry.
I got one of those too somewhere. Actually, what you need is the. I don't know if I have it here, but the game show bell. Yeah.
No.
Close.
So David, when you say you pin who you want, what kind of methodology do you use in terms of, do you just put Ray's name in there and just go like, I'm always going to pin Ray, or is it?
Excellent question. So I did this with Adam. When I say I did this with Adam, what I really mean is Adam did this, and I sat there and watched. So Adam Tao, who's sort of the creator of this. So let me, so here, I'll show you what I'm doing here. So this is the Shortcuts app. And here's my pin action. So the pin action, and I'm sorry that I can't make this much bigger. I don't think you can zoom in on, you can't. So first of all, find all participants where not is myself. So basically, I wanted to identify people who are not me. Then I want to count the number of participants there are. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm in a meeting with one other person. And what I want to do is I want to pin that person. I don't like hiding myself because I sometimes need to see myself as a confidence monitor, but I also don't want it to jump to me when I'm the active speaker. So I will pin that participant. So if there's, so it counts the number of participants. Then if the count is 1, it just pins that participant, period, full stop. If the count is not 1, so otherwise, then what it'll do is it'll open up a pop-up. So let me go ahead and run this. So you can see it kind of ran through all those things, and now it gave me a pop-up here, and I can now choose who I want to pin up there. Generally, I wouldn't use this button if I was in a meeting with multiple people, just because that's not my workflow. But he really wanted me to do it the fancy way, so that's why he built this out like this.
Now, do those shortcuts work with Apple's actual shortcuts, or does that only work from inside of Zoom Cuts once you've created your workflow?
No, these are all in Apple. These are all in Mac. These aren't Zoom Cut shortcuts. These are Mac shortcuts. These are shortcut shortcuts.
If I created them on a MacBook and then signed into another device, potentially my iPad with the same account that
they're right there. They're right there.
I like it.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now you won't necessarily have as I understand it, you won't necessarily have parity of workflow, because the way the implementation on mobile is different than the implementation on desktop. But yes, so I'll give you just by way of example, I built some of mine on my iPad at home so that then I could have them when I came into my office, and they were right there. So yes. And the one workaround, sorry. So if you're using a Stream Deck, this was actually why I met with Adam in the first place, because if you're using a Stream Deck, there is a, what do you call it? A plugin to allow you to do so this, like this pin right here, this is one of these unpin, original sound, the leave meeting. These are all the shortcut ones. There is a shortcut plugin. It's a third-party one, and it's this guy here. It just wasn't reliable for me. I was having a lot of problems. So what Adam taught me to do was you go into shortcuts, you right-click on any of your shortcuts, and you add to dock. When you do that, it creates essentially an application in your personal applications folder. So if I were to open up, for example, my Finder here and go up to my home and applications. So these are all of my shortcuts right here. Then what you can do if you're using a Stream Deck is you come over here, and instead of using this plugin that really isn't working very well, you go up to System and you just do an open action, and you open the app that you want, and when you open that app, meaning the shortcut, it just runs it. And since I did that, every single button that I've pressed has worked. It's glorious. Yeah.
And it's not memory intensive. It doesn't put any wear and tear on your system resources or anything like that, right?
I have no idea.
That you've noticed.
I haven't noticed anything. I have a pretty beefy, I have a Mac Studio, and I literally run 2 things on it. I run Mac Zoom Cuts and Ecamm. Nothing else is running on this machine. So I probably have plenty of space. I haven't noticed anything.
So I'm running a Mac Mini M1, the minimum configuration, and I've noticed no change. And the other beauty about running shortcuts is that you can put in to a shortcut multiple levels and call multiple different apps. So I'll give you a short example here. I'm preparing myself for a training session next week, and the first thing I have in my my shortcut is check if the meeting that I want to attend is active or not. If it's not, start it. And then I've got everything plugged in there. And then I say, okay, now start OBS, because I'm using OBS for switching presentation screens. Start the presentations that I want to have opened. Open the Elgato Stream Deck app, yeah, and this is all, and then set my AV devices, so I can set which camera I'm using, which mic I'm using, which headset I'm using, all in one shortcut, yeah, and then that one shortcut configure on the Stream Deck and just go there and go click if you've started your Stream Deck, and if you haven't, click on the shortcut button. So it's really powerful. It's amazing. Like David said last week, I've fallen in love with it. I've just gone. I just don't know how. I was struggling with Companion, really struggling, but with the shortcuts, it just works.
It's so funny because I'm still in love with Companion. I mean, I still, if I'm doing something where I need to spotlight or really, I'll always join with ZoomOSC and Companion. The only thing I'll add, Robert, and I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel this way with most things, but in particular stuff that Andy seems to build, I am not even barely scratching the surface of what this can do. You know, the fact that I have 6 buttons that I've made, you know, it's the potential here for someone who wants to really dive deep is just, I think it's huge.
Remember how Andy showed the Zoom shortcuts, and he said, oh, here we have a list. What did he say? There's 30 odd shortcuts. But what I suggest is you go into each one of them because they're layered. Once you go into one, you'll see a multiple amount of layers underneath each one of them. So it's huge.
I just wanted to say hi to John, and I want to say this is why I love Zoom Test Kitchen. So I learned so much from this.
Spread the word. We're glad you're here. Trying to keep it alive, right, Frank?
And I'm here to say hi, and I'm glad that it's here.
So is John.
And Zoom Cuts is amazing.
John, how are you?
Cooking how many pounds of
15
tri-tips for the Coast Guard party tomorrow, the birthday party of the U.S. Coast Guard.
That's
Meat
amazing.
on my hand.
How bad could it be? He's stuck in Monterey, California.
You got it. But I'm here listening and enjoying the conversations. And I have to admit, Robert, what you do with your setups are amazing. And you not only do it, but you do it in multiple languages. So I'm in awe.
Thank you, John. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Well, let's bring something else up to the group. Updates, plans for the week.
I got a suggestion.
What's
We may not be able to do it right now, but maybe doing a Zoom test kitchen with a cell phone in this orientation instead of this orientation. I'm curious how it would look.
Well, why don't you join us from your cell phone?
If I can come up with another account. If I join with the same account, it's going to cut me out. So I want to.
Frank says no, it'll let you in.
You can join from one tablet, one computer, one mobile device on the same account.
You can? Okay.
Really?
See what you learn here?
What you can't do is join a meeting from a device of the same class with the same account. So you can't join with 2 laptops with one account. It has to be a different class of device.
Okay.
What? Sorry, don't mean to interrupt. Do you know? That's really interesting. Why? What's the limitation?
I think, I don't know for sure. I think it's so that people don't share accounts. Because if you had 7 people with laptops and they all joined with the same account, you don't have to buy 6 other licenses, right? But
Gotcha.
there's a lot of value in joining from, let's say, a tablet while you're in a meeting on your laptop, because you can use that as a confidence monitor, or maybe you want to draw or do something else, right?
Gotcha.
Of course, Pete, you can see that Hasmuk has entered the meeting on a phone in the vertical. So you can see how that already looks with Hasmuk.
Wait a second.
See Hasmuk?
Oh yeah, okay. All right. Okay. So okay, that's all I need to see. So I am working on an Instagram TV show, because if you know Instagram, it's in this orientation, using Zoom as a switcher. And I do have a software program to go from my desktop to Instagram. And then I just reformat it using like OBS into that orientation.
Is it
So,
a sponsored event?
say what?
Is it a sponsored event?
Trying to get them to sponsor it. They like the idea. They just need to create their content in what they want to do, and I'll just like do the switching for them. We're looking to do like live events, and I can just sit home and switch everyone through my computer to live.
Anisha has another example. Pete, do you see Anisha?
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
That's Instagram Live?
Yeah, there is a software program called Yellow Duck that allows you to connect to your Instagram account and go live, and
We
it
use
gives
Yellow
you
Duck.
the key, that key thing,
The stream key,
like
the stream
the stream
URL.
key, like Facebook and YouTube and whatever it has,
Right.
so you can go live. Right now, outside of Yellow Duck, if you want to go live on Instagram, you have to use a mobile device, cell phone or a tablet or something like that. But now there's this program called Yellow Duck, and I've tested it a few times through my desktop, and it works pretty cool.
Is that breaking the terms of service?
No, but I will tell you this. We've been using Yellow Duck at my church for about 3 years now. There are definitely times where when Instagram does an update, Yellow Duck does not act right. It takes several weeks. At one point, we had several months where we were not able to use it properly, or we had limited time. We got kicked out and would have to sign in again in the middle of the stream and things like that. Right now, it's working pretty stably. There are 2 other applications that also do the same thing as Yellow Duck. We also had the same issues with those applications. So we know that it's on Instagram's side in terms of permissions and how they're controlling their bandwidth. And of course, if you're talking about church services or religious services on a Sunday morning across the world, you're going to come into limitations with bandwidth and connections and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
Yeah. What I'll say to that, David, is that you're close in the regards that Yellow Duck is not an Instagram sanctioned app, meaning that if the SDK changes to log in using that technology, then you will not get in. So
Okay.
Well, no,
Right.
my question is more though about I'm going to say legality, but I understand none of us are going to jail for doing this. But
Yeah.
but I mean, the terms of service I think are such that unless you have the go live, I don't know. I'm asking. I don't understand Instagram in general. Like, I don't understand looking at people's food, but I was just asking. Yeah.
Yeah, to my knowledge, the last time that I checked into doing it via Instagram is that Instagram, you're correct, that it usually is. Again, it's phone based versus RTMP based. There is an RTMP structure to it, and you can send it. And this is what this software assists you to do. But again, they are, if they're not working in conjunction with Instagram, this piece of software, it is a third-party piece of software. It is, to a point, breaking the regards of Instagram does not want live encoders to be streaming directly to their platform. They want it to be phone based. So take that as you will.
Yeah. And Pete, on the same note as Mike's saying, I don't want to quote anyone here, but I have heard of people setting up a darkroom, having a 4K monitor and an Apple phone, and just producing everything and screening it on the 4K monitor, and then streaming it from the Apple phone to get all of the to get the algorithm believing in Instagram that it is a pure live feed.
Okay.
And that's the better way to do it.
It's kind of like YouTube. They don't let you have they don't let you go live with a mobile device unless you have 1,000 followers, kind of thing. Okay, all right, interesting. I like that idea too.
But the key here is to have a darkroom and a very high resolution monitor that you've got the iPhone, because the iPhone is given as an example because has such a high quality camera, and then formatting it, framing it right from the beginning, pressing start, and you need to synchronize those starts.
You don't really need a dark room. You just can make a camera box, lens box. Just
that is so
remember
much work to get on Instagram.
But
to
get on live, David.
To get on live, right? Right.
That's the point here, is to go live and hit that level of people who are watching live events. But the idea, of course, to have the darkroom or the camera box is to keep all of the reflections out.
Okay. Anisha, are you on LinkedIn? Can I connect with you there?
Absolutely. Anissa
Okay.
T, ISSAT. Mm-hmm.
And everybody, I just found out, because I did a quick lookup, and it looks like Instagram has actually made their own piece of software now to do so.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Instagram Live Producer.
Yeah. David, if you can pull that up, then I'll show you.
Yeah, yeah, I've got it right here. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up on a different
Sure. Hi, James.
Screen. No, that's not it.
And it's probably using the same engine as Facebook Live Producer, because they're under the same umbrella now.
Yeah. Again, the actual streaming servers are identical. If you actually do a DNS lookup, they are identical streaming servers. That they're so the content delivery network that you're broadcasting to, and then all they do is it's been separated to Instagram or Facebook. But the physical servers, it's based on the stream keys, of course. Stream key on Instagram is not going to work on stream key for Facebook.
Right.
So you can only get 720p. So that's one thing.
Okay.
By the way, I was watching on YouTube, popped up when Steve Jobs was announcing the iMac, the first iMac, and how it was they went from 720p to I don't remember, something just a little higher, and it was best screen they ever made, 15 inches, just amazing. Setup. Open your streaming interface and locate where to input your URL and stream key. Open Instagram.com, click the add post button, select live from the dropdown. When you click go live,
it says this is limited access.
Say that again.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
It says Live Producer is limited access at this time, but is it fully available publicly?
I don't know. Within your streams, use your. I'm not sure that this is doing anything other than giving you a URL and a stream key.
That's pretty much what Yellow Duck would do.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it says live producer, but there's no production in here. It's that I can see. So I'm not sure.
But it would definitely be more reliable for everyone when they're using,
Yeah.
when you guys need to get the actual stream keys and stuff, because they are making the software. So this software or whatever interface it is the true one that you would need for an OBS or vMix or
Yeah.
Streamlabs or Ecamm or.
Yeah. It literally is just creating a stream key in for you. So, which is great.
Yeah.
That's great. It is. I wonder if there's any value in Zoom being able, because once we have this stream key, we could stream a Zoom meeting to Instagram, right?
Of course.
Using a custom.
As a custom URL.
I wonder if there's any value in that. I don't know. Again, I don't get Instagram. I'm not sure I get social in general. I think
Then
I'm
you'll
just-
really love that Instagram just plugged in Threads. So
Oh, I'm all over Threads. I'm on Threads. I was like user number 2. I mean, I wasn't, but I was probably user number 10 million. But oh no, I'm on it. I just don't get it. I use it to consume.
right.
Nisa, I guess for the rest of us that aren't Instagrammers, is it always going to be 9:16, or do we get 16:9?
I believe it is whatever you send into the feed, because I know we actually send our church service on its own stream feed through Blackmagic through OBS, and we configured it in a horizontal at a top position, and then we actually feed our Facebook comments in towards the bottom as graphic overlays. But if I wanted to highlight a 9:16 window out of that original feed, I could. But
Can I
we
ask you a
just
question?
wanted a smaller. Mhm.
So you stream your services to Instagram. Are you doing it through Zoom? Do you have people joining you in Zoom?
Oh, not through Zoom. No, through our encoder, and then we're using a service called Subsplash. And Subsplash is automatically sending to Facebook and YouTube for us.
Right. So here's my question.
Mhm.
And if this is outside of the Zoom test kitchen, just someone shut me down or mute me. But it seems to me that for the most part, streaming to Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or any of those services is essentially creating a television show.
Right.
Yes, there is engagement with comments, absolutely. And some places do that really, really well. I would argue that the vast majority don't. They ignore the comments. I will always be partial to streaming into Zoom because I want the people who are there to know that they're seen. Can you talk a little bit about the decision to not use Zoom, not use a multicasting platform instead of a broadcasting platform?
I think it depends on what it is. In terms of, if I'm just talking about my church, we only started using Zoom at the beginning of the pandemic to supplant our Bible studies, which were in person before, so we didn't lose the Bible studies. We were always streaming our Sunday services. The Sunday services were always through a stream encoder and never through Zoom. So when I'm talking about streaming through Instagram, we're talking about the Sunday services, not the Bible studies, where we want the more direct. The Sunday service is the TV show, so to speak. It is the one to many, or the in service to out to the world, whereas the Bible studies are meant to be more interactive and engaging and more directed to people that want to participate and have a say. So that's kind of the reason why.
Thank you.
That answer, does that give you?
Yeah. No, thank you.
Anissa, let me ask you a quick question because it came up when you're displaying, talking about your flow. And I was wondering, the ATEM that you're using, that before you're bringing it into, was it OBS and then sending it to Instagram?
Yes.
Reason that now the type of ATEM you have does have an encoder built in?
Yes.
The reason not using that?
We're, it's not the full, it's the, what do you call it? SDI-in.
Sure.
It's a Black Magic unit. I'm sorry. And I don't even get to see it. I don't get to interact with it. I just know it's been set up. I only deal with the encoder.
It's an ATEM switcher, right? That we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's one that actually has the built-in encoder. And are you only streaming to Instagram or are you going to a platform?
We're
Meaning
going
a platform that
to
will send out to multiples.
a platform. So Subsplash sends out to YouTube, to Facebook, and then internally we have a web app, a mobile app that are hosted on the Subsplash platform. And then the Instagram is a separate stream or separate feed.
So
For
OBS,
Sunday.
so OBS is only doing Instagram.
Right.
Okay, and then the ATEM is doing the rest? Subsplash?
Actually, it's not ATEM, it is data video is our actual encoder unit that we're sending out. And then there's a little Black Magic box that's connecting. And I think it has to do with some of the older equipment that we had or whatever. So I'm not the one that set it up.
Okay. No, I was just curious because it almost sounded like you had bought a lot of extra gear for no reason, depending on the ATEM model that you guys currently have.
Yeah, no, it's just a little box about that big that's handling the Instagram port out.
Okay.
Cool.
Has anyone used what is it called? See, now that I'm not using the native client, I can't see it. The third audio option. See if I can find it here. Live performance audio. Has anyone played with that?
Not familiar.
Oh, I know what David's talking about. This is the newest add-on in the client, correct, David? In the Zoom client?
Right. It actually is in the Zoom cuts also. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just doing the original sound for musicians. I haven't gone down that next level because that one is, from my understanding, when I was looking at when it came out recently in the changelog, where they were talking about the different updates and such, it was more to reduce the latency.
That's exactly what it is, right? And I actually, oh wait, be quiet. I actually have I did a video. I wonder if I could find it. I did a sort of a test with it, and it was actually pretty darn cool. How the latency was just I'm not gonna be able to find it now, but it was kind of amazing. We could sing together and we recorded it and it just worked. It was really, I was a little blown away actually.
So definitely good for a Sunday type house of worship scenario where there's singing involved. There would be next to no
Possibly,
delay.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it.
So if you hover over the extra information bubble, it says enables in-meeting option that disables Zoom noise suppression and removes high-pass filtering and automatic gain control.
I wonder if that was in response to all the flack that I got last year about audio not working right, especially for like music teachers and things like that.
I personally think Zoom's getting a bad rap on that.
Yeah.
Most operating systems now have built-in noise suppression. So Realtek sound cards have noise suppression.
Right.
Apple iOS and Apple OS X has noise suppression, and it competes with Zoom's noise suppression, and it causes issues. And most people have no awareness that their computer has its own built-in noise suppression, and they just blame Zoom all the time without addressing that aspect of it.
I also don't think people understand what Zoom is trying to do. I mean, Zoom is not it was not created for performing together live with zero latency.
I think the big complaint is, for a long time, for a couple of years during the pandemic, people didn't have issues with their pianos or guitars getting blocked by Zoom, but they don't understand how it's evolved.
I found the test. Wait, you guys want to see this? All right, so let's see if this will work. It should work. All right, let's see. Tell me if you can hear this. All right, so we're now recording and we're testing to see if this works.
David, any
You can
rights,
hear me now. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
guessing.
Say it again.
any rights issues here?
No. Yeah, go for it.
Is that too fast, or should I
Yeah,
bring it
doesn't
down
matter.
to me?
We're just testing it, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
So you can hear that I'm harmonizing with him in real time.
I say, a wretch
I'm also playing guitar while he's playing keyboards.
And I was loved.
So is the video lag on our side, or
No. Ignore the video lag. Ignore that. Just pay attention to the audio. But I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
We could actually sing together, and it sounded good live, and it sounded good in the recording. I was really impressed.
What do you mean by ignore the video?
I mean, don't look at the video right now. That's what I mean, right?
Right.
Audio is more important than video. We've all learned that.
Said
I don't know why that lag is there. It just is.
somebody is heavily invested in all kinds of video control systems and an expert on most of them.
No, hardly.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Who is the fellow that was on? Office?
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of his performances, and he's been driving that with Andy and the folks at Zoom, because he likes to experiment, and he does test it. So I'm sure he's enjoying that.
And there's another one out there. The FarPlay is the one that came out long before Zoom. And I would, if I haven't played with FarPlay. If I had to guess, I'm sure that's probably a little better, but only because they've been at it longer. But to have it built into Zoom now is really. If I were teaching music, I'd be a happy camper right now.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to drive to my house to teach me
That's right.
up with me playing, trying to play my banjo. You could dislike it from home. Get that many more calls in a day. Well, what else we got? John, you have some pressing Zoom issues you want to talk about? Nope.
Not really, but I'd like to switch into my other system. I'm in the waiting room on my main computer
Oh,
and
I'm
get off the
sorry.
phone.
I didn't see that. Let me get that. I got that one. And Samsung, my fault. I'm not hearing the ding for some reason. Why am I not hearing the ding?
Yeah, I wasn't either, Ray.
Yeah. What have you got? Oh, pay no attention to the audio
Right.
or the video. What do you got, John? This is the test kitchen, folks.
So we're testing.
That's where it is.
Yeah. This is where things blow up on purpose.
Well,
We've
the
done a
phone
few of those.
phone did not want to let me out, and now I need to get my camera back so you can actually see me.
We got you, John.
Okay, at long last. No, I don't have anything really new to test today, although I have been dealing with the issue of people not realizing that if you have two of the noise canceling systems going on at the same time, it does do havoc. And I think that's probably going to grow because there are more and more people have incorporated noise canceling into their cameras and other things. And so how to fix it so you only have one of the systems really interacting. Zoom is amazing, although it gets scary because, you know, I think David, you had that problem where people were singing or they clapped and they didn't hear anything. Literally, when a tree falls in the forest and no one's there, does anyone hear it? And we've had that problem where we've had trees falling and nobody hears it.
Except on your house and the porch. But
Well, that's a whole nother tree, but that's a whole nother story. Yes.
I actually did have something real. You just reminded me. You didn't mean to. Something really strange that happened to me. It happened twice this week in the past 3 days. I would start a Zoom meeting from Zoom cuts, but I would see myself in the meeting twice. And the first time I couldn't figure out what it was. My phone, which was sitting in my pocket, I hadn't even touched it, somehow had automatically joined the meeting. Or the meeting, I don't know. I don't know what happened. It was really, really strange. It happened twice. It has not happened since, but 2 times my phone would automatically join the meeting as a second device. And I'd have to I'd have to close out of the meeting.
Was that an Android or
iPhone?
iPhone.
Yep.
kind of like a Zoom butt call, to quote a phrase.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know whether that's a problem that's happening regularly. I can say today when I came up to my regular computer, this meeting that I just entered on my phone was not associated with the account on my computer. So that's why I had to call in again. And then once Ray put me in, I disconnected from the iPhone. And as you could tell, when I got back on, it had reconnected. So I may have found that error and unintentionally got you reminded of that because I couldn't figure out because I not only left the meeting, but I zipped it up and then it went back again. So Zoom cuts is very interesting, but it is reaching further into the guts of the Zoom client. So who knows?
I have a technical question on gallery view, speaker view. I run a meeting so often, and at the same time, I'm also switching through a video switcher live to cable TV. And when I take someone who's remote on Zoom to switch them to TV, I like having gallery view as a host or co-host. But when I switch to that, when I spotlight that person, it takes me out of gallery view. Is there a way to prevent that from happening, or is that just inherent with Zoom right now?
You have dual screens on?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, you're saying it pops you back into gallery view after someone is
No, no.
spotlit?
So I prefer having gallery view. That way I can see everyone remote.
Right. It kicks
Okay.
you out of gallery view. You're
Out
saying.
of gallery view to speaker view. Yeah.
And
Well,
so
when
we
I-
played with this when someone is spotlit, you're saying, right?
Yes. When I spotlight someone.
We played with this last week actually, because that's a pain point for me also. And they fixed it in ZoomISO now. You can force gallery view. Apparently it's coming to Zoom Cuts. And these are all, I don't know if it'll ever come to the native client. My understanding was that once somebody spotlights you, it forces you into speaker view. It forces everyone into speaker view. You can then switch back. So that's why I have the bottom left button on every Stream Deck I have is a gallery view button, because all I want to do is I want to stay in gallery view all the time. So but that's a bit of a pain point. By the way, a sort of a parallel pain point is the fact that the main Zoom window that you can't swap Zoom windows, right? That what I'd really want to do is put my gallery view persistently in my secondary Zoom monitor, and then, or another way to think about it is I want to be able to move my control bar, my Zoom control bar at the bottom. I want to be able to move that from one.
There's an option that you can have it in every window in the setup.
There is?
Yes. I believe.
Where's that? We got to find that.
General setup.
In settings?
Yes. In Zoom. Settings. Wish there was a search. Is there a function in
on the web? There is, but not in the
gonna share. I'm sure it's there. I'll look while you guys talk amongst yourselves.
That would be interesting. That I would love. I didn't know that was possible.
So what I have is I have a video switcher with cameras. The second video out from the computer is going into the switcher. I have to finagle it so I don't get a video feedback loop when I switch to someone on Zoom to video. But yeah, it's a constant battle just having to. Unfortunately, I can't add anything. It's a basic Zoom program that the client has, and for me to even suggest to them has to go through 4 different agencies. I'm just the operator of it, so trying to change that is not going to happen.
Pete,
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts for you. And
Yeah.
This takes this takes us back to the non-ZoomISO days, and I think pretty much in this regard you're a PC person versus Mac. So let me throw this at you. If you do have a way of bringing in, do you have multiple accounts that you can log into Zoom during the meeting?
No, like I said, there's 4 different agencies involved in this, and I am at the low end of the end client. So for me to suggest something or change, I can't change anything without going through all these levels of agencies. Okay, I can suggest it, I can suggest minor things to the end client when I'm there working, certain things, but when it comes to changing the hardware or software or things like that, it's not my call. I can't. I have to go through other people.
Right
to do
now,
that, so.
Yeah, so let me explain my thoughts and you tell me if you can work with this or not. And again, this might be something for you to think about. Is basically what you want to do for your own convenience is have gallery view so you could see whoever showed up into the meeting, right?
Yes. Yes.
In one monitor,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then you want to be able to basically, as host or whatever privileges they've given you, you want to be able to pin or spotlight that person and video and audio feed that out to
Yep.
your switcher and then go wherever you want,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So my suggestion would be to, for your convenience, to get some sort of second way of logging into that Zoom meeting, not necessarily have a video feed that you could send back or anything like that. Similar to like a ZoomISO would connect to the Zoomcast kitchen as an example, but you don't really send video and audio. It's just basically there as a client, right? So then you could actually, then that client, you could then always make sure that if it does go into gallery mode and you do spotlight, you could always make sure that that machine, you could put that machine back to gallery mode while that person is spotlit.
Okay,
right?
I
Two separate
understand that.
machines,
I could
two separate
probably
clients.
do that without any problem. So okay, all right, that makes sense.
Were you able to find anything, Ray?
What is that panel called on the bottom? What do we call that?
That's a good question.
I've looked for, because I had that problem actually the other day. It showed up on both, and I didn't want it on the second screen.
I have never, if that actually is possible, that would be kind of amazing.
So Ray, you're looking through the client right now?
Is it it's not a taskbar, it's a,
I've heard it called something. And I looked under. I'm going to have to pass. I'll put
control bar, meeting control bar?
It is referred to as the floating meeting control bar.
Except it's not floating.
Well, it can be.
It can be?
Yeah.
Out.
And I'm trying to get you to the Zoom page for it.
No, it can't.
And you, let's see.
No, it can't.
I'm finding it on a. Here, let
You
me
can hide this
you can
bar,
hide it and
the
then
menu bar, but you
can
cannot
float
move it.
Hold on.
You cannot float it. You can, when you're in screen share, that one floats.
Yeah, that's okay. Yes, that's.
But when
what
you're
I'm
in a
talking
regular, when you're not screen sharing, it's stuck there.
about. It's stuck there, or you could hide it.
Right. Okay, I'm not crazy. Good.
Well, I won't give you that much credit. Not on that one. Speaking of myself, I know I fall on the crazy spectrum.
I see you're using Beat Sheet.
Yes, I am.
Nice.
So, but there was another possible way of controlling what's displayed on which screen would be to set up a Zoom room and use the Zoom room controller that lets you select which screen goes to the model screens out of a Zoom room. And that's probably the easiest way to make sure you have the gallery view on a screen. And are you putting that into a switcher?
No, I guess what the pain point for me is that I like to, so hold on. I've got Zoom right there, right? So this is where I'm looking. That's where my camera is. And that's where I want gallery view. But I don't want my menu bar there because this is a small screen. What I'd really like to do is move my menu bar over to something bigger so that I can see it and interact with it more easily. Now, by the way, I should say this is now much less of an issue now that I'm using Zoom cuts because I almost never have to interact with the menu bar. But so what I could do is move my gallery, my main Zoom window down and put my secondary window up there, but you can't move the menu. You can't get gallery view in the secondary window. So that's why either I'd like to be able to move the menu bar, have it floating, as you said, or I'd love to be able to, swap those two windows so that I could gallery view in the secondary window. I didn't explain that very well, but that's
No, that I see the problem now that I'm trying to think.
But now that I've explained it, it is interesting. It hadn't dawned on me that Zoom Cuts really kind of solved the issue for me. I really don't even have to. I can't actually remember the last time I went into the menu bar, which is interesting.
I always find speaking out loud the situation, Dave, then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Dave, I can tell you great minds think alike, because I went to this thread where they were talking about this. And the last part of the thread was how to make a feature request at Zoom.
Right. Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
But Zoom rooms, do you ever set up a Zoom room?
So here's my thing with Zoom rooms.
Okay.
I have not set up a Zoom room. I never paid for Zoom rooms. I have, which I haven't used now in 2 years, but one of those Facebook portals, which I believe Zoom saw as a Zoom room device.
Well, and it's funny you should say that, because that's why I was going to. What I do here is I have a Facebook portal, but I have the old one with the flip screen. I have an HDMI out, and that's what I feed into my switcher. And I select in the Zoom room, which is a portal Zoom room, which feed goes to that secondary monitor. So
interesting.
And so with a real Zoom room, you'd even have greater capability, because you could actually have 3 screens. So you could actually use multiple. Do you have an ATEM, or are you doing all your stuff through OBS?
I have an ATEM.
Yeah. So on the ATEM, you basically could have your Zoom room be the one that feeds it. Have all 3 screens go to 1, 2, and 3, or I actually keep 1 free for the computer, use 2, 3, and 4 for the screens. And then essentially you could select any screen that you want to go out to the main program.
Right. I'm a little what's the word? Biased against Zoom rooms, I think, because when I went to upgrade from the pro plan to the business plan, it took about a month, because my account kept telling me you can't do this because you have a Zoom Rooms device. And I kept saying, I've never paid for Zoom. I don't even know what Zoom Rooms is. And I couldn't get, there was a bug. There was some sort of something.
An undocumented feature.
And there was an undocumented feature, which made transitioning, and I was just trying to give them money. Like it was so hard to take my money, and they made it so hard. But yeah, so I'm and I also don't fully understand how I understand if you have, conference rooms. I mean, Frank, I'm sure knows all about this. If you've got multiple rooms and conference rooms, then Zoom rooms make sense. I don't fully understand how it's beneficial to a person sitting at their computer.
Well, the lineage was, and actually there were 2 sort of verticals, because the Zoom rooms was a different code set, I believe, than the Zoom, meetings. And it was a way of taking those big conference rooms that were at corporate centers, where they'd have 2 or 3 screens in the front, and they had the very expensive standards-based video conferencing equipment, and very easily just have Zoom go into it. But it also gave the fact of a secondary control device. So like you were saying, you didn't like to have the little menu bar along the bottom. There's a Zoom room controller, which is either an iPad or a tablet, or you can actually have it as a web page. And for being able to move things between screens. And so you could have a Zoom room in which you just have the Zoom room controllers and other just displays, on your desktop there, like you're using your Stream Deck.
Gotcha.
Then I'm sure if you want to throw the money at them, they'll gladly give you a Zoom room.
Well, I'm sure they will.
But again, it was mainly conference rooms, but there are some advantages to having a Zoom room in an office. And that's where I've got in the portal. And when the portal dies, when Meta decides the portal has gone to pasture, I'm probably going to have to set up a Zoom room here for.
But it has. They can't.
They're not selling it. They're still supporting it.
Yeah. Wait, they are still supporting, you said?
Supposedly, I haven't had any problems.
Neither have I.
Yeah. So my suspicion in me and the real question will be, at what point, when there's the mandatory Zoom update, do they not do the mandatory fix to the portal?
Right.
Because right now we've had probably 2 years of those mandatory updates, and the portal has still been able to work reliably.
I loved the Facebook TV portal, or Portal TV. The one, it's kind of a big fat webcam essentially that you sit on top of your TV. I used to have one back there, but I used that for tons of meetings and things. I loved that device.
So
Still
we
do.
had a PTZ camera that failed at one of our park studios. And the replacement cost of the PTZ camera, the one that we were using, was going to be about $1,500. We were not in the right budget cycle. So I managed to take a portal, the TV portal that sits on top of it, and it wasn't going to any meetings. That became our PTZ camera in that studio. And the Rangers liked it better than I said, okay, now we got a budget, let's replace it. Oh no, they loved it. It follows very well. And we've weaned ourselves from that because I knew Portal was going to go away someday. But yeah, that's it. They must have been selling that at a loss because the gear in that works very well. It's a clean image, and the Zoom pan was very effective in it.
Agreed.
Did
Okay,
Jeff show
anybody
up
else
today?
got anything? Oh,
I was
go ahead,
just gonna
John.
say,
Sorry.
was Jeff in today? I missed him. I came in late, so.
Jeff started the meeting for us. He just got a full-time gig, and
No, I knew
so
about
he's-
that.
Yeah.
I since he's not here.
Are we
I
going to
think-
talk about him? Is that what
Well,
we're doing?
I think there's something we should do for him. I mean, at first, I'm thrilled that he's got the new job, and I was always uncomfortable with him flying in helicopters, but that's my fear factor.
Is he
But-
doing Zoom meetings from a helicopter?
Yeah, he probably could. But
Yeah.
some of us here, maybe all of us here, might remember when Jeff launched this during COVID as a service to the community. He really needed it. And I think the passing of the baton, but if there were an organization, I don't know what it'd be, but I'd love to make a plaque or a embroidered Zoom Test Kitchen, helmet. I don't know what he would use it.
A
but I think-
helmet. A Zoom Test Kitchen helmet. I think one of the best things that we can do. You're 100% right. Absolutely right. I think one of the things that we definitely should do. And look, we're in the beginning of August. It's a slow period for technology. Period. So it's none of us should feel badly that there isn't a whole heck of a lot to talk about this week. But I think that keep making sure that this goes until it's not serving its purpose anymore. And it's as long as we can learn more and bang on this thing and help give feedback for development, and that's a really lovely way to honor him, I think, to keep it going. So at least in part. But I agree with you. I don't really have anything else.
David, I got a question for you.
Uh
Go
oh.
ahead, Pete.
Is that a yarmulke on your head?
Yeah.
What's the logo of?
Okay. So here's the thing about my yarmulkes.
Yeah.
I have a bald spot and it keeps getting bigger, which means I need bigger yarmulkes to cover my bald spot every time it gets bigger. So my daughter moved to Israel back in December. She's in the Israeli army now. My wife was just there visiting. And I said to her, the only thing I need two things. I need a bagel from Jerusalem because they make the best bagels in the world. And I need new yarmulkes. So she got me 3. So one of them, she got me an Israeli army yarmulke. This one is Matisyahu. I actually don't know what the picture is, but Matisyahu is a rapper, a reggae rapper performer. He did the song One Day, whatever. So that's that. And then she got me an Iron Man one, which is my absolute favorite.
Oh,
because-
nice. I got
Yeah.
to tell a friend of mine. I'm not Jewish, but I got a few Jewish friends. I got to tell them about that.
Oh yeah. The Iron Man one is I really want one that says I love you 3000. That would be perfect for me from Iron Man. So
There is no end to the advice you could get on the Zoom test kit.
fashion decision, yarmulke fashion week on the Zoom test kitchen. Hey, by the way, okay, so here's something for the test kitchen. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but so when I have my meetings, I'm sitting here, but every once in a while I have someone in the room with me who also needs to join the meeting that I'm in. And so I sit them over there. And so this happened this past week that I have a camera on them, that's fine. I have a mic that I can put over there, that's fine. But there was no good way for them to see the Zoom meeting. I have a monitor on this side, but I was in the way and whatever. So I bought one of those cheap, little 4K tiny portable monitors, and I put it over here. I put it right underneath my camera that points over there. And then all I'm doing, it's connected to a different computer. So what I did is I'm using NDI to send the Zoom feed to that monitor. So now they can look right at the, I can't really show this to you, which makes this a silly conversation, but so now they can look just like I am, essentially right at the camera, which is also right at the monitor. The only thing I'm missing is giving them an earpiece to have a multi-cam set up in here for multiple people. And that's because they think I'm crazy enough as it is. If I told them they had to wear an earpiece, they would probably lose their minds. But so using NDI, it was a great little thing for me to play around with, that you can, on the Mac, it's NDI, it's a scan converter. Is that what it's called? NDI.
David, you're talking about out of the NDI tools?
Yeah, so NDI, the scan converter is what grabs the video, and then NDI video monitor on the other computer is what receives it, and then I just put that app full screen on this monitor, and it's fantastic. There's lag; it's not perfect, but
right now, are
great.
you trying? So what screen are you trying to duplicate for that
yeah.
co-host
So-
that's beside you?
So what I've been duplicating is the second Zoom monitor, not the first one. So they don't need to see gallery view. I just want them to see active speaker and or the screen share. And so the second Zoom monitor works perfectly for that.
Okay, and do you right now take that out as its own physical source, meaning HDMI?
No.
DisplayPort?
In Scan Converter, you can choose what. So here, I'll open it up for us so we can see it. Scan Converter. All right, so now I'm in. So here's Scan Converter, and I don't know if I'll be able to make this bigger. So I can capture all these different things, anything that's open. If I go into Zoom Cuts, it gives me all my Zoom windows. It's probably going to be this one. That is, I'm not going to pull it up right now, but I'll call you right back. Yeah, it's going to be this one, Zoom 6. This is part of the problem, is that it doesn't identify what the windows are, but I happen to know just by the size that this is the one. So I just click that, and it then makes, that's now the feed that's available via NDI, and then I can just grab it on using Video Monitor. So there's no hardware. It's all over NDI, which is fantastic.
And that's fun to do. I mean, you could grab it on your iPad. I do a similar thing here. Let me get my bigger screen back here with the Bird Dog Play. So then any TV, what's cool with the Bird Dog Play is because I have multiple NDI stuff going, just use the remote control on the TV and they could select which of the screens you want.
Bird Dog Play.
Yeah, Bird Dog
Yeah,
Play.
it's a fairly new product, John, correct?
Yeah, I've had it. I got it through Guy's store early on, but
what is it? What does it do?
Think of it this way, Dave. It basically removes the computer that you're doing to decode the NDI to your screen. So it removes.
Yeah, go ahead.
It basically is think of it this way. In the TV world, we would call that a set-top box, but it's an NDI set-top box.
That's the best way of describing it. Just consider this a NDI attachment, and it's Ethernet. I wish I had
and HDMI out.
And HDMI out, and they've designed it such that the same controller that controls your TV can control this. So it just sees any NDI signal on your network, and then you could select which of those signals comes out of the HDMI port.
Nice.
So equivalent to what you're doing right now, Dave, how you were
without
just
the computer.
Without needing a full computer, you would just need this box. And again, too, if you wanted to, you could also use those for any type of situation where if anything's NDI, you wanted to bring into the ATEM as well. Because again, it's HDMI out.
What's that device called again?
Called the Bird Dog Play. Bird Dog Play, and it's I think about $150.
It's $149.
At one point, I have a number of NDI cameras that I was using, and at one point I thought, well, gee, I could just stick NDI cameras all around the house, and this would be my, remote viewing for security. And again, with NDI, you could do a pattern of all of them, so you could actually have a setup where you decide this NDI feed is a mix of all the feeds I've in there with Mimo Live, and so.
Yeah, just be careful, John. If you do want to do that as a security equivalent, be nice to your switches and routers in your house.
Yeah, I know.
They will take a killing.
Yeah, no, I regularly kill my network, unfortunately.
Jeff's here.
Hey, strangers. We got back. So I figured I'd jump back in.
Okay, guys, we have to stop talking about him.
How's it going?
Jeff,
I want to congratulate you on your new job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the second thing, David and I both mentioned this, we're glad you're not in helicopters anymore.
Well, for one more week.
One more week, okay.
Yeah.
Had you ever flown in helicopters before? Like, I would be terrified to have to.
Oh, they're a blast. Yeah, I had been up. I mean, I'm a private pilot, so I'm super used to and love being in the air, and did helicopters a little bit, but not like lately. We get up we're not up all day, but we're up almost every day for at least a story or 3 or 4. So,
but the problem, Jeff, is a plane, when the motor stops, can glide.
Helicopters can auto rotate and land as well. Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure to get on here to just thank you for all that you did starting Zoom Kitchen. And we were talking earlier about you and how created this during a time of the pandemic where having this was useful literally to the world of getting people getting Zoom to do what it did. So a great deal of gratitude personally from me, but I think from every participant who's gone through the Zoom Kitchen. Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you very much. It was, a few days ago when I sent out that email, I'm like, when I'm writing that, I'm going, wow, this is a moment. I had to kind of think it all through, and all of a sudden I realized, wow, this was an attachment for me. So,
What kind of work did you get, Jeff?
So I'm going to work for I think they're number 16 in the construction business in the nation. They have about 26 offices, and they're headquartered here in Kansas City, called J.E. Dunn Construction. And they've asked me to come in and head up the continued expansion and deployment of their conference room collaboration technology, and they also said, oh, by the way, we're going to have you own the annual all hands deliverable from headquarters out to all the offices. I'm like, hey, that's right up my alley. So that'll be fun
On
and entertaining.
Teams, though, right?
I am jumping. I'm jumping over to the other side of Microsoft Teams because I've already standardized on that. But I mean, on one hand, it's like, I feel like a trader. On the other hand, I'm like, wow, in a few months, I'll be an expert on both, and
right.
And,
And
so
you could get Zoom in the Teams and Teams in the Zoom, and you could do like a lot of the event people did. They would convert the PowerPoints to Keynote and not tell anyone in the world.
Yeah.
But I thought
they said they have a few offices that still, in fact, use and connect to Teams meetings with their Zoom platform, and so they interact, but
I think it's appropriate with David here as our spiritual guide that there should be some wake for Jeff going to Team side. I think that's
when's the viewing, right?
Well, you don't have it because Teams doesn't work that well, but that's
that's the thing. It's like, hey, I'm not dying, I just won't be around every Friday. And I thought about it. It's like I would do an evening every week, without a problem, but I'd be canceling out the whole European market by doing that. So I would rather not do that because they're 6-8 hours ahead of us. So
that's very nice, Jeff, to say as a European. And you know what? When your mail came, I don't know why, but I knew that it was such a kind of mail, and I didn't want to read it because I had a feeling. I saw this mail and I thought, oh, maybe it's a cancellation or something like this. Yeah, but congratulations for the new job, and thank you for all your good work for the Zoom Test Kitchen and us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a blast. I mean, it's I think the Facebook group is just over 1,100 members, and from like 82 different countries, and the email I send out every week, and I use MailChimp, sends out to I think about 700, and that is derived 100% from registrations to the meetings. So we got 700 that are in the database that have explicitly registered for the Zoom meeting in sometime or another. So it's pretty strong and sizable, influential community, if you will, for the platform. And we've learned a ton. I mean, there's details we know and identify here that we've figured out, on our own, that a lot of folks just never even get around to having to think about, so it's been fun that way. But most of all, it's, I've got some connections and friends from the kitchen that will be forever. And and there may be times it's a hybrid job. They want folks in the office 3 days a week and can be remote 2 days a week. And, so, if I'm traveling home from work, I'm about 20 minutes south of downtown Kansas City, and tune in on YouTube or listen in or whatnot. So that is if we get this full-time replacement.
Oh, we're not
person.
going anywhere, Jeff. No one can replace you, but we're not going anywhere. We'll be here. You can move it over to my business account and
There you go.
I'll start it up. I'll fire it up, but we'll all
you're good to
co-host it.
go. I was going to be cautious about throwing you out there when everybody.
No,
was
we'll
in
all
there.
co-host it together. No worries.
All right. So, yeah. So I got your text about connecting Sunday or Monday. Sunday would be better for me to connect. Monday, well, there will start being interruptions again. But yeah,
I'm around.
Just,
We'll figure
I mean,
it out. Don't
obviously
worry.
you're familiar. Otherwise, I'll. You can. We'll talk about mainly like the database and getting the word out, and whether you want to inherit those tools in the building on it or just export the database and bring it into your own tools, whatever. But
Okay.
but yeah, and then the Zoom account, I think this is sponsored, obviously no longer from Guy, but it's sponsored from Greg Gibson, and it's an enterprise account from him. So
So we can do that, or I can host it on. I can put it on my business account. Either way.
Yeah. It's been the same ID for years and years. Might really throw some people.
No, so let's leave it. Leave it. Absolutely.
Yeah. I wish you could move a meeting, or I could send that schedule to your account or something, but I don't think that's doable. But anyways.
So actually there's agency from YouTube actually says, give Jeff a tattoo.
Give
I don't know
me
what
a
the tattoo reference is, but
that's from our friends tattoo.
Tattoo of what? It would be my first. I have no,
if I get a response.
no ink. Very good. Good stuff. Well, it's been a blast. I mean, it really has been a lot of fun. And like I said, the story is it was a pretty selfish start. I was unemployed and COVID hit, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I identified that, collaboration tools for, churches and businesses were obviously at that point a big need. And so I wanted to learn it. And in order to learn it, you need people. And so I'm like, why don't I just let the world know that I'm going to be in this meeting every week at this time and see if people will come. And, but it grew into a lot more than that. And I wasn't alone, office hours and AV Educate, as far as, other efforts that we're, just sharing and gathering and giving places for people to, communicate and hang out and learn and so forth. That it was a multi-platform effort for sure, a multi-organization effort. So it's been fun, but I'm excited to get back to IT. IT is my roots, and it certainly has helped a lot with my knowledge here and in and around Zoom and Companion and all those things. But it will carry on. I'm not going too far. I just can't to be here on a regular basis. So you in your office, John, where are you? And why are we seeing the gallery and we can see through it? Are you on Unreal?
I'm in my upstairs office. The studio is still being redone and a long developed story. And I'm using the new Beat Sheet Studio. That's when you pull an image up like that. And if I had my tablet here, I could do telestration on top of it. And it will let me pick different screens, different desktops. There's my crazy desktop. And if you really want to see where I am, let me see if I could find my controls here. This is probably the part of the studio you normally
Yeah.
my messy desk. And,
So that's real paneling behind you, right?
it's a bamboo room divider
Okay.
that just rolls up. So I normally have it rolled up in the corner. So if let me zoom out.
John, could you please repeat how was it called, this program?
Oh, this program that I'm playing with here is called Beat Sheets Studio. And if you've been following in office hours, but also on Square TV, Michael came out first with the Shoot Camera app, which lets you turn your
Yeah,
iPhone.
I know
into
this.
Okay. Then he came out with Video Pencil using the iPad as a telestrator. And he had a previous program called Beat Sheets, which is still available. You could see it. And it's sort of an outliner, stack. It's an interesting program in and of itself. But all once he realized, well, wait, if I put these all together and make a studio out of it, then it's a very powerful tool. And let me see, I might be able to actually do a little, this demo. Let's see if I make this work. Let me start here and hopefully.
Yeah, I'm seeing he's got a YouTube, about a half an hour YouTube on it.
Yeah,
About
so
a month ago. So yeah, that's cool.
And he does a daily thing. So here is this deck, and my last call I was on with Robin, but I could go.
Well, John. Oh yeah, that's cool.
So now I say thank you for Zoom Test Kitchen. So, but that's a screen. Now I'm going to advance to the next one. The next screen you see will be Ray playing a video. And I have the controls here for turning the volume off and on. The next deck I have in the stack is an example of the light treatment. And what's fun with this is that I can decide whether I want to have the words at the bottom, the picture on the side, the little side picture. I can put it like that, put it in the middle of the screen, or I could just say that.
Nice.
Then I go to my next screen, next card in the deck, which is just me. Then I have my next screen. So for when you're planning a conference, you have to engage interactively and have a great learning experience. Access to Zoom meetings, but like we said, if I wanted to, I could switch it. So now that's over on this side.
Yeah.
Then I go ahead and advance to my last part, and then I'll hit the screen again, advance, famous last words that didn't advance. There we go. And then I have what's the desired outcome for what we want to do, and then how to sign up.
Where's your QR
That's all
code?
running on your iPad? Oh, sorry.
No, this is right now. The Beat Sheets is running on my main computer here.
Copy.
And I don't have. I may have. Let me see if I got my iPad may have attached.
Jeff, that was actually John Drinkwater that wants you to get that tattoo. I put his comment in the chat.
That's funny.
Okay, so now I brought my iPad.
Ah, that's funny. Very cool.
So I could do.
Yeah. So this is the shoot stuff, right? Cool. Very cool.
And what's really fun is that I'm using my instant camera, Instant 360, and as my main camera. But if I actually include an iPhone as a camera, then there's some extra interaction that you could do. And let me see if I can make this do what I want it to do. Yeah. So now whatever's on my iPad. So now you're seeing, this is clever. I could do this. So you could see what the shoot interface looks like, because that's right there's the shoot interface. And these are the cards. So you may recall that card where I said,
yeah,
I thank you.
Yeah,
Let me
so
clear
it's-
that. Clear that. Let me go here.
and your iPad is getting a return feed, so you know what you're drawing on top of, right?
So can you see
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're, but I'm not showing my iPad. What? Let me get. Wait. Now I have to try to dance and see at the same time. That's very interesting. It's not. Yeah. That's it. This is complicated because yes, but what the iPad is seeing, I'm being able to draw directly on it, but it's not showing that because it's actually very strange what it's done there, because it's showing that camera. If I go back, I was showing the back camera. Let me go back to the instant link. So there you go.
Now there's your return feed. Yeah.
Now you can see it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I think this is okay. And he's got a little laser pointer.
Nice.
So I think this is going to be a very powerful tool once he gets it done. So it's in beta. If you wrote to Michael, I'm sure he would add you to the test of it, and he hopes to get it out.
Yeah, good idea.
And to me, everybody has a certain tool that they really fall in love with. It's whatever your first word processor is you love. But I've been playing with this with Mimo Live. Both Mimo Live and Ecamm have a direct connection with so that you can then use this as a source within there. But I'll tell you, I'm very impressed, and it adds the other feature where, notice when I was saying thank you, Jeff, I didn't write very well. This should work. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
For all you did for the Zoom community. For the Zoom community. Oop. Zoom committee. Okay.
There you go.
I can't articulate,
No, that's cool.
but other than that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you used Camtasia creating training materials, and Camtasia was a program that you could do screen capture. So I think this has all the functionality of being able to do creative screen capture, screen recording, but telestration on top of it. And
and moving your camera around real quick and whatnot reminds me of that program that I hate saying the name of. They had that just quick, easy, manipulative controls, and
I don't know what's
so
happened
forth.
to that group, but this is my normal setup here.
Yeah.
This is the one I'm playing with. That's for the P21, the $80 monitor, audio and camera.
Nice.
And that's my this is my demo space for Beat Sheet. So let me go here. This stand here is really impressive because it has a prism mirror. So when I set this on that, and use the back camera, I now have a copy stand where I can show you my
That's cool.
Yeah.
Then when I switch to this to my front camera, now I'm standing in front of that. So just that stand itself is pretty handy. And I'll come back to me. And let me switch to my real camera here.
And you're using Mimo Live for the Insta 360 and the switching?
Not right now. Now I'm actually just using my Zoom meeting here, and I just chose the video pencil as the source. But the new Mimo Live beta, which I think is going to be released on August 14th, has a built-in Zoom client. So have you ever used Mimo Live?
Yeah, I tried it. But I didn't like it as much as vMix because of the layer stack system and the not that you don't have a preview of what you're gonna go to program.
They've been able to fix some of those things. I also use it with Cinemaker. I'm a Cinemaker and Mimo Live guy. I'm not very good at using Mimo Live because I have a very good friend, Michael Slade, who is really good at it. But yeah, you can use this as a source into that. But Mimo Live has really the most powerful Zoom integration. So both Cinemaker and Mimo Live have really strong Zoom integration. Cinemaker, essentially in Cinemaker, you launch a meeting and everybody who's in that meeting can be a camera source, and you just choose them and move them over to their switcher panel. So it's pretty impressive. And actually for low weight work, because Mimo Live is incredible in that it's like Photoshop, only Photoshop, you have one picture that a photographer took an hour to figure out and make everything work perfectly, and then you manipulate it. Video, you have a new picture every 30th or 60 frames a second. But Mimo Live treats each of those frames like it's a photo that you can manipulate. And the way that works is, again, the difference between one difference with Cinemaker, essentially the Zoom meeting that it holds is a green room, and every person in that room can become a full camera source. I think up to 16. I'm not sure what the limit is, but you end up moving them from the green room onto the Cinemaker stage, and then you choose those shots. And for many of the people I work, that's the best way of doing it. They're used to having a switcher, they're used to doing it, and they want to use the Zoom room as a place where people land, and then they bring them onto the stage. And so they even sort of
makes sense.
Green room.
Yep.
Where in Mimo Live, essentially, you get a multiple Zoom meetings. So you could have a Zoom meeting, and you could bring in the individual pictures in that meeting, but you could also launch multiple Zoom instances. So literally each person is an individual Zoom meeting. And there's some very clever things you can do, because you could have somebody working with that person as sort of their remote director with their camera off. And so you could be chatting to them, just to them, because there's this, chat function. So look at it different levels. You've got beat sheets as a camera source in a Zoom meeting. You saw everything I did with it here. Add beat sheets to a Cinemaker meeting, which gives you a whole nother level of production, and then add it to Mimo Live. You probably could do,
a ton of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. By the way, John, I think you activated your auto tracking with both hands up when you showed the gesture.
I did that, and I now have to go there and say no.
Yeah, the camera was helping you be very dramatic, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, whoa, hello.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is when I do the beat sheets, let me get to here and let me switch. Let me first see if I can get to the right screen. It might get to the right screen. Okay. Now, if I go up, we'll try this. I need to make one switch. Hold on. There we go. This should work now. Famous last words. The demo monster. Okay, this will work. So now I've got to make a switch here. Now I'm switching from my instant directly to beat sheets. And now I'm going to do the small picture in picture. That's interesting. It did not come up. Let me check this again. I have to go to the beat sheets, we're on camera. Okay. So now when you see that, I'm in the little small window. Let me come up with a better screen. Let me switch this to, there we go. I didn't like that either.
That's because you're spotlit. Should probably remove the spotlight.
Yeah. Did I spotlight myself?
No, I think. Here,
Yeah,
I'll remove it.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. So now, if you notice, if I don't have the auto tracking on, I could get out of the frame. But if I do, in fact, do auto tracking, then it does follow, and it's not, doesn't make you quite as seasick because it's that little corner there. So when I'm doing things like this, I have the auto tracking on, and then I could go.
Makes sense.
Bring my iPad back.
It lost you.
It lost. Story of my life. Come on. Go on camera.
Maybe it needs your eyes in the spot.
I don't know.
Middle.
Let's see. There we go. You got to follow me. Come on. Be my friend.
There you go.
There we got it.
It's like a puppy.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so this works better for the auto tracking. It's certainly amazing, all the fun stuff that happens. And Jeff, you created a space where people are comfortable to experiment and test and hang out. So
yeah, maybe we should have you and Michael in next week. I'd be, because this, I'm thinking parts of this, if not a lot of it, can feed Microsoft Teams as well. Because it's just essentially there's a good portion of it that's just a video out, right? That could be a virtual camera in.
I mean, I would use this with Mimo Live and produce your show on that, and then the output could be your source. Or I would do it with Cinemaker. You would still have a Mac ecosystem for your production.
Yeah.
Cinemaker can send out Cinemaker. I really feel its strength is it's a one-stop shopping. You could produce your show live, send it out as a Zoom meeting, but as soon as the meeting's over, the exact same tools, you can re-edit it because it captures every source.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Zoom releases the double ending where they announced at the last Zoomtopia, that's built into the Cinemaker. So then you could download a even high resolution video if you had some interrupts in your internet, and then re-edit it. And Cinemaker then can output that edited, either the live show or your other one, and send it to Final Cut Pro. So it's got a lot going for it too.
What kind of a Mac do you need for this? It sounds like a lot of horsepower needed.
I'm doing this right now on a M1 Mini base model.
Nice.
Interesting. And you have Mimo Live, Cinemaker, and the other tool
I don't
running,
do
right?
all those at once. Sorry.
Okay, I see.
No, right now what I'm doing is beat sheets and just Zoom client now. But you can run beat sheets and a Cinemaker, or you could run beat sheets and Mimo. If you're going to do Mimo Live, you really want much more memory and a beefier, like the M2. but
Yeah.
And that, but again, there's a lightweight version. Oliver now has a device which his software, but he's packaged it called the Mimo Rack, which has a Black Magic card associated with it. And it's running on an M2. I forget what memory has, but it's an amazingly powerful graphics engine. Again, with all the zoom and all the layered functionality that Mimo Live has.
Yeah, the functionality of Mimo Live is really amazing, but I'm not that used to the layer stack style of working. I'm more used to the AB preview program style. So that was the main reason why I skipped Mimo Live. Yeah, because when I do production, I really want to see what I will bring live next before I bring it live. And this is something I can't achieve with Mimo Live in the way I want it.
Yeah, I mean, there's workarounds. I mean, I've talked to Oliver about that. The people.
Yeah, me too. I was the one posting some questions in the office hours when Oliver was there.
Well, we need to do like Alex was saying in office hours, get those people who want that functionality to keep reaching out to them. The people who adopt Mimo Live, like ducks in water, or any photographer who's a heavy Photoshop user, because that layered model is just the way they think. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's true.
It's only us, well, I won't speak for you, but graybeards like me who grew up on a mechanical switcher with a, program bus, preview bus, and an effects bus, and one downstream, and think that's the way the world exists. Of course, that's the only way it should be done. But the mixer I learned on was the original switcher from the Milton Berle show, and it was a old clunker even when I was using it.
Who's Milton Berle?
Yeah, no, you're really every nice thing I said about you, Jeff, I retract now.
I know. I mean, I do know the name, and I'd even recognize the face, but he did predate I tuned in to Milton Berle. I never did that.
Well, I could safely say I didn't really tune into him, although my parents may have. But I had that experience. I taught the intro course to telecommunication, and there's a wonderful film called TV Land. If you haven't seen it, it's a Braverman film. Braverman is other ones that you may have seen is he did, world history or art history and stuff in 3 minutes. So it's a very rapid paced pixelation film. But TV Land is the history of television from the early Arthur Godfrey shows up to, the 70s past Vietnam era. And the claim, well, not one claim to fame, but a very interesting artifact of that film is it shows the Lee Harvey Oswald assassination, which was at least the first known assassination that was actually broadcast. And there's some interesting television history about it, because that was just when they were making the conversion from black and white to color. So much of the funerals for the Kennedy when he was buried was in color, but the footage all from Texas was in black and white because they hadn't converted it to color. And so that Lee Harvey Oswald footage is in black and white. And in my lecture about the history of television, I showed that film, and then I talked about the conversion from black and white to color. I mean, from color to black and white. And then made the mistake of going to my students and said, "What were you doing when Kennedy was assassinated?" And I hadn't taught this intro class for 5 years. And when I said that, most of the kids who were freshmen in the class said, "Well, my mom told me about it." None of them were alive. So I realized sort of the military experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what, 63. It predated. I was born in 66. So
63.
yeah.
And anyway, again, Jeff, thank you so much. I go off and do my afternoon honeydew list, but
good stuff.
And Mike, it's always good to see you. And let's see who we've got. Pete's control room. I don't know who's left in here.
Frank is behind the scenes somewhere, and Andre. But yeah, always good to see you, John. I'll poke in every once in a while when I can and say hi and tune in. I'll probably listen, more often than be able to attend. But it's been a blast. Thanks for all your contributions and connections, and the whole community is just fantastic. Don't plan on departing from the value of the community. That's for sure. There'll still be plenty of reason.
And whoever you turn the reins over, if you want, me to reach out to Michael or do another little impromptu demo. I hadn't planned on it today, but that might be kind of cool to. I'm on schedule next Friday to fly. If I get called, and so I don't usually know till usually the morning of that day whether they have a list of things to do or not. But more than likely it'll be David who primarily carries the reins forward, and we're going to talk Sunday and work out necessary details so things go smooth for him, and and then I'm I would imagine that he'll call on some folks to pinch hit every once in a while. So if for those who are up to that, help him out. And we have I think I have a small Discord group of like 8 people or so that I'll ping and say, hey, I need some help, and somebody usually comes back and says I can do it or not. So it's a great playground. It's been great. I would have hated to see it just kind of wither away. So I'm really, really, really glad that it's going to carry forward and be a continuing workshop. Well, good stuff. I think you need to talk to your boss to be current. You should come to Zoomtopia in October.
I've thought about that already. I saw the registration was open and all, and let's see how that can work into the conversation. So they have multiple locations, but I don't think they have a California location right now. But
you could do that visit and just go to your dentist beforehand, and then we'll have you out here.
That's right. Good stuff. Always good to see you. Thanks, John.
Take care.
Bye, John. Jeff, may I assume that your Discord will stay alive, even if you only come here once in a while?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll there's all those details where I'll I try to keep everything intact the way it is, and just either hand it over or add David as an admin, or so that the whole community doesn't have to make big adjustments. So I'll get him full access to the Facebook group and the LinkedIn business page. Not a lot goes on there, but there can be if you wanted to move forward with that. YouTube channel for sure, to be able to start the stream and so forth, in Discord. So yeah, we'll try to keep all that intact, and the meeting ID probably try to keep that the same, but I'll get that schedule. I usually try to reset it once a year, re-extend the ending date so that there's 50 new recurring instances of the meeting. But the meeting ID's been the same for a long time, and I just keep extending it. So I think it makes it pretty convenient for folks.
Yeah, and even the passcode.
Yeah, the passcode is the kitchen, so yeah. I remember when I first started this, there were, people having problems getting in or knowing about it, and Guy Cochran just said, just put it out there. Just put it out there, because I was really like, I don't really want to publish the link or the ID to the world, but I finally did. And, I mean, and we got hit once, pretty hard, but then that forced us to really, as a whole group, just get really familiar with all the options from delegation of, having certain people, be bouncers, in the waiting room, to never turn off the waiting room, to not grant all the privileges, out of the chute, to manage people being able to share and not share on the fly, and, things like that, to kind of protect
and to know the stop
environment.
all video button.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. And Zoom has added and added and added, features and capabilities, which has helped that a lot. Now, when I see a post, on the Zoom community of, Zoom bombers and this and that, and they're shouting and screaming at Zoom, and it's just like, you know what? This has nothing to do with the software any longer. This is all about lack of understanding, knowledge, and implementation. And those big complaints usually come from individuals who claim that they don't want to inconvenience their attendees. And it's like, hey, guess what? It will pick your passion. You can't have one and the other together. You can't make it completely convenient, like click a link and never have to do another thing, such as register or put in a password or any of that. You can't have all that ease of entry, if you will, and not expect issue, and
it's the same like physical events. When the corporations do physical events, they have like registrations to don't get people that they don't want to have there, and
That's right.
people think that it's not necessary because it's like in the cloud, it's digital, but that's not the way.
No, you've got to have them. I mean, I think the Zoom Test Kitchen really has become a pretty ideal example to say, hey, I publicly advertise the meeting ID and password. And I don't recommend that, for a lot of people, because they don't implement and exercise, the strategies to keep the meeting under control. But it's a good example that it can be done. I've publicized the same meeting ID and password for well over 2 years, and more like 3, and and we've only been hit once, and I think we had an audible interruption of several months back, but after that one video interruption, and we made big adjustments, it's never occurred again. And it's not that it couldn't, but
I haven't been here at the meeting when this happened, but I have been here I think the meeting afterwards, and there was a lot of discussion and exploration of what
for
is
like
possible and what
for the
not.
next 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember
exactly.
I remember Ed told me, hey, stop talking about this. I said, no, I don't. It's like there's a lot to talk about, there's a lot to consider, and the thing is you're not, if you will, like, if I was just the owner and I had to make adjustments, I'd just do them, But the thing is, I'm part of a community that we have to talk it through and decide, but we also have to teach and educate too, right? So that, there's always, some folks who go, well, why are we doing that? I mean, why did you just decide, and then you have to talk about the behavior that's, kind of inherent with the product or whatnot. And so it takes longer. It took longer, that's for sure. But now it's just kind of natural. And now, with Zoom Cuts, you can fire up a meeting at one button press, and it fires it up. It's started. It can set all the security preferences. It can set the chime preference. It can, it can set original sound on, all in one button. It's like, that's crazy cool. So now it's not even the big task, and I can take that Zoom Cut button and share it with maybe a stand-in host or anybody else who wants that same capability at their fingertips as well. So it's fascinating where it's all gotten to, if you will, with ZoomOSC and ZoomISO and Zoom Cuts, and it's just
Liminal
fantastic.
requirement.
Yeah, that
inquiry was
acquisition,
really good. Yeah,
the brain power and
that
brain
was a big
trust
step.
of really Andy and Jonathan, and that acquisition, the product itself, and was I think a very, very good move for sure. And I mean, we're still just seeing the beginnings of Zoom Cuts. I mean, Zoom Cuts, I'm pretty confident will sooner than later be a part of the Zoom client and on the Mac.
Yeah,
anyway.
that's what they are saying.
Yeah.
Hello.
Jeff, did you hear about Andy's promotion?
I saw that post yesterday on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Do we know what he's not doing or is doing, or how it changes?
I don't know yet, but I will say that I need to share this with David. Andy is, where'd my mouse go? Andy is due to visit the test kitchen on the 18th, I believe. Let me make sure I'm recalling that correctly.
What was this post about, Mike?
I had seen it in LinkedIn. That his title officially did change to a new position, and that he got this new position. I think it was in last couple days.
Yeah, he announced. Yeah, I saw the post yesterday on LinkedIn, so I don't know if that was, when it actually happened or not, but pretty close, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah. So on August 18th, he had committed to the 18th to come into the kitchen, and I'm not exactly clear on what's on his mind, but when he comes, and I'm not 100% if that's going to change because of his new title or role, but we'll get some clarity on that. But that's only a couple weeks away. It is the week after I stop hosting, so that's a bummer, but I'll have to come home that night and watch it on YouTube. But I think we can look forward to gaining some clarity on what his new role entails, and what he's not doing any longer, and so forth. But I'm excited to. It's been I know we, as a community, we were like, selfishly, when he first got acquired, and we were like, oh man, not really sure how that was all going to work out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's worked out, phenomenally.
Hello.
So it is done great. I think that's John.
So may I ask, what is his new position, or what will be his new road?
Well, let me go look that up real quick. Remind myself the actual name of the title. Andy, Head of Client Innovation. That's his new title.
Okay.
So if we look at the previous, he previously was Events Engineering Manager, and now he's Head of Client Innovation, which is probably like one step below like Chief Technology Officer or something. I don't know. I'm being a bit facetious, but that's a visionary role, no question.
And he's a crazy visionary guy, and it's incredible. His knowledge is really incredible.
He's perfect for it, because he's so well connected and with the community, and is liked by the community in a very big way, and so forth. So to be able to, gather data, gather information, and deliver progress and projects internally and so forth. I think it's a great fit. So yeah, be excited to learn some more for sure. Well, gosh, you're just changing your look like right before our eyes there, Frank. First, I always see you like this, and then I was like, wow, Frank's got a lot of hair a little while ago, and then you pulled it back. Not quite sure where it all went, but it's back there somewhere. There it is. Cool. Good stuff. Well, anything else, guys, that you want to spend time on? Chat about? Test? Oh, I was hoping that I was going to be able to get back and say hi and circle around to what Robert opened up with, which was when a webinar meets and exceeds its licensing capacity, will it forward them or give them a link to get forward them to the stream? Is it a requirement that stream is being provided by Zoom, or can it just be a destination and they can simply provide the URL? And because one thing that I know is the area in Zoom webinar configuration for that beyond capacity forwarding rule, it's a checkbox. Well, the checkbox is, if you exceed capacity, tell the user about, remind the user about the live stream that's out there. But the area to configure that URL of where the live stream is exactly the same dialogue with for configuring Zoom to live stream it. And so on that dialogue, I can even probably pull one up. It requires you to configure the parameters anyways, as if you're going to have Zoom live stream it. And I'm not saying that he got the wrong answer. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying if in fact, here, let me get signed in here real quick. If you satisfy the configuration screen, do you just not tell Zoom to stream it, right? So it's configured. You don't have to actually tell it to go. And will it still, at capacity, still provide that URL? That was going to be my question. Okay. All right. So if I share my Zoom and I schedule a webinar, I'll just check what I normally check. Request. Okay, so schedule a new webinar, and then I there's panelist and registration. If I go here and I require registration, I'll leave that. And then under more, so here's the section that says when the webinars reach capacity, remind users to watch the live stream. And it says doesn't apply to custom RTMP, which I'm assuming it means if you're going to be streaming from Zoom, it doesn't apply to streaming from Zoom via custom RTMP. So we check that box. So at that point, you go, well, what's it going to remind them, right? It's got to give them a URL. And so that URL is under this configure custom streaming service. And it would be this one right here. So if I took the URL of the Zoom test kitchen, copy this off my Mac. That would be where the stream is, right? Live streaming page URL. And so if and I'm not going to be streaming it from Zoom, I'm going to be producing it with, let's say, vMix or something like that, right? And but it will be on YouTube ultimately. But if I try to hit save, it's forcing me to put the stream URL and stream key as if Zoom is going to be doing this. Now, I thought, well, maybe it doesn't require that if I tell it I'm going to configure the live stream during the meeting. So maybe it doesn't want it now. And I hit save and it still wants these fields. So that's a requirement. So my question was...
Jeff, I actually have a thought.
Yep.
Do the old school, what we used to do in the networking world, just put in localhost.
Yeah, I mean, and you could put in, I mean, like YouTube's going to be set up, right? I mean, to accept an inbound stream. So I could copy those parameters, although it's actually going to be getting it from, let's say, vMix. I could use that same data and put it in here, but I never tell Zoom to go live with the stream.
Right.
And that's my, and this is a really hard test because I've got to go exceed 500 people to test this out. You know, that's a tough one to achieve.
And also what you also could do too is that if you wanted to use the backup RTMP off of YouTube.
Yeah.
So the B server, that you will know that, you know, worst comes to worst, your vMix dies, then you'll see the Zoom feed. So you could actually have it as a redundancy if you wanted to by going B, you know, the RTMP B stream versus the A stream.
That's true. That's not a half bad idea. Yeah.
Right. And then you got the redundancy of Zoom. Yes, the watermark or whatever the Zoom feed will be, but at least it'll be there. But if vMix for whatever reason died, or OBS, or insert your prime feed is there, you could always have the backup feed be Zoom and it sends it there, but it'll never switch to it as YouTube because
how do you know so I'll pause there for a second. How do you know it will never switch there? Because I've never found a way myself to actually control YouTube and say, hey, by the way, I don't want you kicking into that backup server. The whole thing is, you know, and I've had it go to the backup without a failure. You
can only do this
based more on benchmarks or health. You know, I couldn't see it, and it would take my backup. It was at these high school graduations in particular, and it would be on the. I was making changes to something, and it's like it's not happening, and the thing is it was like the first ceremony, and I hadn't yet synced to where I had my duplicate stream decks to my duplicate vMix A and vMix B. They weren't 100% synced yet. So the changes I was making was on vMix A. It was my stronger laptop, you know, and the whole bit. They were both on the same bandwidth, but it wasn't making the change on YouTube. Come to find out, YouTube was actually ingesting the backup stream, which was not synced to my Stream Decks yet, and so the changes I was making to exposure or whatever weren't
Yeah.
showing.
I'll give you an
And-
example of one that I actually have done live, and also we've done some testing on myself, was that I've actually had somebody actually live, and again, this wasn't vMix, so this was using ATEM Mini Pros to be specific. So basically what ended up happening was the primary was an ATEM Mini Pro at the location. It was a funeral based, so it was in the funeral home. And what was the B-roll was that as soon as the ATEM, we shut off the ATEM, it kicked over to an OBS that was coming from the head office, which was us here. We were sending to the B so that he could actually downpack his equipment at the funeral home and actually go get ready to go back live at the actual cemetery.
Yeah.
And then once he got there and went live again, what I had to do was when he was ready and was sending up, I had to make sure that he was up and that YouTube saw the actual feed come back to A. Then I dropped it from the main office. Then and only then did it go back to him.
Yeah. And that's what I had to do as well. Once I realized what was happening, that's exactly what I had to do. Was I killed my vMix B machine's feed, stopped the stream, and forced YouTube to ingest from the primary, which I knew was healthy, and then I let it sit there for 2 minutes, and then I fired the backup back up, turned that stream on, and it stayed there. So then when I finished getting everything synced with Stream Decks and this and that, when my button that started the streams both on vMix A and vMix B, I put a 60-second delay, even though it was one button, and the one button started both vMix's streams. The second one, the backup stream, started 60 seconds after the first one did, by design. So I was, just kind of hoping that, let YouTube settle in and take this, and then I'll give it a backup feed and see if it sat steady. And
YouTube,
it did.
Yeah, YouTube can be a little temperamental when it comes to that. So you basically, it's again how we did it to make sure that there was no hiccups was to actually go into YouTube Studio and actually make sure that you could YouTube was actually showing in the preview of the YouTube Studio to show the actual feed was there, that it was actually said excellent or good or whatever archaic sometimes they
but it doesn't it has no indication of which one it's ingesting, right? I mean, if you say, oh yeah, I could see it was the primary or backup, I've never been able to identify which one it's ingesting.
That was my question, because Mike, you had two different videos, Nicholas, right? One from the studio and one from the live. So you opened a new YouTube Studio video when the A stream was live again, and saw the A stream because you opened a new window after this. So could you have a preview to really see that he's sending?
Yeah, what I ended up doing was, again, from the studio here at the office. From the studio here, what we basically did was I had my ATEM here, and I was also monitoring the YouTube Studio in a different computer, right? So I was totally monitoring from here the YouTube Studio inside in the actual interface, right? So that I was doing on a separate computer, as well as I had the ATEM, which was just basically throwing up some slides and such, just to keep the audience engaged until he actually got to the cemetery, right? So, and was able to set up some gear. And then when he was ready, he sent the feedback. And again, then and only then did I know that he was actually getting a response back from YouTube that he was connected properly. Again, the ATEM let him know if he's connected properly or not. Then and only then did I give it about a buffer of about 30 to 60 seconds at that particular point. And then and only then I cut. And then when I cut, it does a hard cut, but again, it's a hard cut from B to A, and it flipped back.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it didn't
with
have a preview
very
of A.
minimal interruption. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I mean, if you know what's going to happen and you're watching really close, it's this tiny little hiccup, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But again, I was definitely monitoring the whole time within YouTube Studio. So I had its own dedicated computer that was connected in.
Yeah,
with
I
the
do
main
that as
account.
well, usually.
And then again, the ATEM at the studio, and then it was the ATEM that was remote live at the funeral home. And as soon as as soon as he gave me a heads up from there that he was ready to shut it down, we basically did a cut at that particular point. We synced it to pretty much the equivalent of what I was going to be having here as well. So that was key as well. So it looked very, very minimal of a cut. So it was already the same type of content that I had here. So again, we made it as simple as seamless as possible of a cut that, unless you really saw it or really looked at it, you wouldn't have known the difference, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's a quite clever idea. Never thought about this.
I ran into something that I don't remember what it was. It was an alumni, college alumni philanthropic type deal where they gather, as many millions of dollars in, donations that they can. But anyways, it was a really, really well done production in their nice big theater and so forth. I had a vMix A and a vMix B, and it was a full 2-day setup, between the stage and the tech, and I was there for the vMix part and did a vMix A and a vMix B, and we did quite a bit of momentary, rehearsals for, audio and video and streaming quality and all that jazz. And I eventually got to a point where I really had to get down and optimize the machines, the vMix A and vMix B machine. And part of that was, you minimize the applications that are running, you minimize the tabs that are open in Google Chrome, and but you go a step further, and I go a step further and go into the settings of Chrome and tell it not to use my NVIDIA cards, the graphics cards. So because it will, vMix does, right? And I need to get rid of the competition from any other application that is open that can also be, graphically accelerated by leveraging your GPU. And so I disabled that in
You have to show me where this is possible, Jeff. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think if you go to Google Chrome settings, Firefox settings, they do the same thing. Discord does exactly the same thing. And I believe if you do a search for GPU, it'll take you to that little entry where you can disable it.
Andre, the one thing that I'll say that Jeff is talking about is it is per app. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm thinking about my vMix machine as well. Yeah, I'm thinking about the vMix machine as well and reducing the stress of the system load.
Yeah, and especially with the GPU, where most of the GPUs were limited to 3 streams in codes at a time, right? Whether they were records, which count as a GPU consuming encode, and or streams, one of those or 2 of those or whatever, you'd have that limit. Now, a lot of those 3s have gone to 5s now with some NVIDIA updates, but still just optimizing. So everything's all optimized out. Everything's looking great. And, showtime comes around. And so vMix A is streaming. vMix B, then, we start that stream for the backup. And vMix B machine is also my YouTube Chrome is up, and it's monitoring the stream, and it really freaked me out. I mean, like super stressed me out because we were live and I'm monitoring it in Chrome and I couldn't get anything higher than like 360 or 480 or something out of it. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm kind of tripping because we're live. I can't go reset anything, And so I left it and I thought, man, I'm either going to take my punishment or we had local records going, So, I mean, that part was there, but I just thought, man, if I'm really sending this out, I'm host. I may or may not get paid for this gig. And so anyways, when it was all said and done, I did a playback on it from YouTube and it was fine at 1080. And so at that point, I realized that, disabling the GPU actually,
Oh, you disabled
disabling the ability to use the GPU in Chrome. Chrome says, okay, fine, have it your way.
480 it is.
It wouldn't let me see it in anything higher. I'm like, I didn't think it would affect, I just thought, hey, I mean, certainly Chrome should be able to produce 720 or 1080 without a stinking GPU, but it just can do it better or faster or whatnot with a GPU. But it didn't.
A very good find.
It wouldn't do it. So, my heart palpitations calmed down and I was good. And but it was a mind-opening experience initially. I was freaking out.
Andre, as a suggestion for me too, is that, again, I've always done this too with a lot of, again, similar to like a big event like Jeff was talking about too, is that I will pay usually somebody to be, beside their desktop the whole time, and letting me know that they are watching the stream as if, they're just a general audience participant. And
I tend to do this as well.
I would actually put, production, I want production feedback, audio too loud, audio distorting, we're having a blip here, there, all of a sudden the feed dies here, there, that type of stuff, just to, again, it all comes down to, of course, budget that your client has, of course, but again, just for my own sanity, like Jeff was doing, he didn't have that, for this particular event, but again, for my sanity, I've done it way too often where I've done it flying blind, and the flying blind is always, giving me anxiety that I didn't need at the actual event. And I'm more worried about switching to make sure I'm getting what I'm seeing in front of me, switching properly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things.
It's true. Our church, when we have twice a year, we have kind of the big program that, gets distributed out there and it goes out to Zoom. It supports English and Spanish and ASL. And so I don't have to pay anybody. I just ask, members that I know who would be willing to, and probably be watching anyways, right? Like, hey, can you watch this on YouTube? Hey, can you watch this on YouTube, the English stream, the Spanish stream, and YouTube, the ASL stream, because I do 3 of those. And then can you watch it in Zoom English, and can you watch it in Zoom Spanish, and so forth. So, and primarily it's not like we're checking in with each other or anything until somebody who knows me, because it's church, right? Hey, this such and such not working. And then I just ping my monitors. Hey, you guys seeing any issue with Bloom? Because, getting a report like I'm pretty sensitive because I worked help desk in my early IT days. really sensitive about blowing people off, you know, and so I want to give them an answer, and I don't necessarily want the answer to be, well, we're not having that problem here. That's the last thing they want to hear. But when I can say, I've got folks monitoring this Spanish stream, which maybe that's where their complaint was coming from, and I've verified that they're healthy and good and not experiencing any problems, try, you know, you might try this, this, or this, you know, and whether it's wireless or, you know, things like that. So I really put it on somebody else who has validated, you know, either, yes, you're right, we've got a problem, or they've invalidated it by stating they've got a good experience. And you know, if you wait and say, hey, don't reply to them yet, and I just want to go, I want 2 or 3 more complaints, you know, like let 2 or 3 more people come in and tell me the same thing. Now I'll know we've got a problem, right? And so it's just kind of managing that, and I'm not the one doing it, by the way. This is just kind of what I've set up, because I'm focusing on, you know, the actual production, but it's, you know, I've got some help desk 2 key people next to me, and then the others that are home based monitoring. But yeah, having those systems in place. But yeah,
It's a question of backups. Today I had a discussion with one of my clients about budget for a Zoom streaming thing, and I had to tell her that the numbers are that high because we usually plan with backups. We don't bring one machine and one thing and then we go. We have 2 machines, and we have like 2 PowerPoint machines, 2 Zoom machines, everything, and that counts up. And that is because this client usually works in this level of production. So when we have not online but offline events, we also have backups, and it's a very high rank client. So I had to tell her, okay, you can have it much for much less cost, but then you don't get a backup. And if anything breaks, then it's a problem, and you have to decide, do you want to have a backup or not? And I learned that usually you don't need a backup, but if you need it and you don't have it, you're really, really stuck. And yeah, so you always have to have an extra machine,
and if you get a signature
extra
from
person.
them that says we've waived the, you know,
Exactly.
providing that,
That is
then
okay.
at least they know that they're the ones who have officially said, due to costs, you know, don't bring in the recovery, because their expectations will never change if you don't make them sign that release, right?
And so this special client, she understood it, and she usually wants to be on this level as well. But there are some people in the background that have to understand why it's this cost, and so I had to explain it to her. And for myself, when I do production, I always have at least one backup machine for anything. Like, and I always have people who monitor audio, who monitor video, and usually I ask some of my colleagues, here, please log into the stream or log into the meeting and monitor it and give me feedback. So yeah, this all adds up, but in the end, you have a client who wants to have a good product, and you have to deliver the good product, and that adds up some cost.
Yeah, and still, it's there's always a point of failure somewhere, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
You know, I mean,
human failure. You did the wrong cut,
well,
for example.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you got human failure. I mean, I was almost one of those. I was stage right camera operator at a concert, an EDM concert, and it was last summer, and it was stinking hot, and it was an outside amphitheater, and I literally about passed out. Like, I was almost offline. And like, wow. I mean, so much so, I even told the guy who hired me in, who I've done a lot of work with, I said, Jeff, you know, I said, I've never told you this, but I said, when I heard your voice in my ear saying, Widgren, where are you going? I was going down because he was yelling at me because my camera was panning, and I have no recollection of it at all. all I recall is
Whoa.
hearing his loud voice, and it snapped me out of it. I'm like, holy smokes. I would have been down on the ground. It was like, wow, that was the closest. So yeah, you've got the human factor. You know, I mean, I don't often see two soundboards, you know, one
Yeah, exactly.
1A, 1B,
Or
you know, I mean, there's just certain, I mean, you're not hanging two lights for every one you're going to use. And there's all kinds of things that are not
yeah, exactly. But
redundant.
if you are working with computers, you need backups because computers
Oh, yeah.
tend to fail. Yeah. And every Zoom, every vMix, every PowerPoint is a computer, so you need backups.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get to the content generation, you know, the way you cable things. So, you know, as far as walking hazards and circuits and all that jazz, I mean, yeah, there's lots to consider. So that's why we like it so much.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, guys, I'm glad I was able to. I didn't think that we were going to be back quite so soon. So I'm glad I was able to get back and jump
Jeff,
on.
did
And
you want to do your normal sign off
Happy to see you.
for YouTube?
that's a good reminder. I haven't done this in so long, you know. I did do the kickoff, but I don't have my Stream Deck hooked up today. So
Do a manual.
I have to do this manually in vMix and bring up the script and tell the script to run. Thank goodness it's a script, though.
And maybe we will get some feedback in the future from you that the YouTube stream wasn't monitored enough, because you're watching it more on YouTube. It's like, why did you go to gallery when there was some spotlight needed?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So yeah, let's put a tail on this meeting here.
Good.
Yeah, congratulations, Jeff.
yeah, and thank you very much for all your hosting and all the knowledge.
Been a pleasure.